Slow. Joburg looking generally okay in terms of any major obstructions. There is an incident though on the M1 North around Albertina Sisulu Road. So coming out of Soweto, we'll keep an eye on that one as you run up towards the Maresburg area. And a crash on the M1 North at Allendale Road, still being dealt with from earlier this morning. Durban heading north, a collision before you get to the Balito exit to watch out for. Also a breakdown on the N3 out of Durban by Spine Road. The left lane closed in amongst the roadworks. And Cape Town already heavy for those coming out of Mitchell's Plain. A crash on the M7 Jakes Curvell Drive just before Turfall Road, and there's already quite a backlog building into that one. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 7 minutes after 6. Thursday, the 29th of January, 2026 has dawned. Good morning to you. You're listening to SAFM 104 to 107. And welcome to today's edition of The Morning Brief. Come, let us huddle together over the next 3 hours. We've got a full spectrum of issues to cover, from the now regular staple of our times, geopolitical tensions, to issues in local government policy that seem to have reached a fork in the path where decisions cannot be postponed any further and have to be made now, to the solutions workshopping that is happening, or that seems at least to be happening, around one of our country's most pressing problems, illegal mining, and everything in between. So let's give you some milestones on our journey together over the next 3 hours. Among some of what we will cover: Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, Major General Lesetja Senona. What on earth was that? There were many moments of audible disbelief at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry yesterday, as a relationship described as quote-unquote brotherly between one of the country's most senior crime fighters and one of its most notorious alleged criminals was placed under the inquiry's microscope. So, for far too long during the painstaking inquiry hearing, the top cop in question, KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head, Major General Lesetja Senona, insisted that he could see no evil, hear no evil in his relationship with Vusumuzi Ket Matlala, even as allegations against the alleged crime kingpin mounted. Senona was later to concede that he had maintained a close relationship with attempted murder accused and alleged criminal syndicate member Vusumuzi Ket Matlala, even after becoming aware of at least some of the allegations, very serious allegations, that Matlala faces. The concessions didn't come easy though. It took the evidence leader, Advocate Adila Hasim, and the commissioners doing the equivalent of mining through a ton of ore of evasiveness, half and untruths, to get an ounce of truth. Time and again, when pressed on damning timelines, WhatsApp messages and meetings and all of that meetings that no senior law enforcement official could plausibly forget, Senona retreated behind that familiar refrain, quote unquote, I can't remember, I can't recall. But by the end of the day, the commission was left weighing not just the credibility of a witness, but the unsettling picture of how deeply compromised judgment at the very top of the Hawks, at least in this instance, has been, or became over the course of time. So we'll bring you full reporting on this with Kenny Mapanga, SABC News reporter, who will talk to us about all of that. And I don't even know where she's going to begin, because a lot was happening yesterday. So Kenny Mapanga will come through at about 20 past 7 with a full report of yesterday's hearings. It will soon be goodbye to East London, which is not and never was in the east of the British capital at all, and hello to Gugompo City, right here in South Africa, in the southeastern corner of the country. The change is part of a broader wave of approved geographical name changes, with Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Gayton McKenzie signing off on 21 new names across the country. In the Eastern Cape alone, the decisions carry both symbolic weight and political sensitivity, including the renaming of Graaff-Reinet to Robert Sobukwe Town in honor of one of our country's most influential and iconic anti-apartheid thinkers. Supporters see the moves as long overdue corrections of colonial history, while critics worry about consultation, cost, and whether naming debates distract from service delivery crises on the ground. With gazetting still to come, so, there's been approval by the minister. The next step is gazetting. So with gazetting still to come, the question now is whether these names, whether these changes will ultimately unite communities around shared history or deepen local frustrations about priorities and processes. You can weigh in on that, but what we will do is at 7:10, we will speak to Professor William Gumede, who is Associate Professor at the School of Governance at the University of the Witwatersrand. We did try to reach out to some of the main role players in all of this, the Geographic Name Changes Committee. I'm pretty sure I'm getting the committee name wrong, but those people, they were not available to have the conversation with us about that. But you are here, so let's have the conversation. Weigh in. What do you think of it? The main one, of course, is from East London, which, as I say, never was in the east of London, the UK capital, but is here in South Africa. From East London, I'll soon be calling it Gugompo City. What do you think of that? Let's weigh in on that conversation. Lastly, vaccines are in the spotlight once again. And no, we are not talking about vaccines for humans this time around. A legal showdown is now brewing between powerful agricultural organizations and the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, with the battle lines drawn over who gets to decide how the country fights foot and mouth disease. Sakelecha, the South African Agri Initiative, and Free State Agriculture have issued a formal letter of demand to Minister Steenhuisen, insisting that farmers and the private sector must be allowed to procure and administer FMD vaccines without what they call unlawful state gatekeeping. At the heart of the dispute is whether existing law actually prohibits private vaccination, something the organizations argue it does not, or whether centralized state-controlled vaccination programs are essential to containing the outbreak and protecting the export markets that we've been talking about in the wake of these outbreaks of foot and mouth disease. So at 7:45 this morning, we'll speak to Pete Leroux, who is Sakelecha's CEO. Morning brief team, to your stations, please, for the takeoff. Dineo Motaung at the news desk this morning with your half-hourly updates throughout the morning. Zaikan watching all things sport to you and watching all things sport and reporting to you in every hour of the show. Rob Byrne is watching the country's highways and byways and will report to you every 20 minutes or so. Melissa Puta has got the morning brief in brief, and she's standing by with that over the next few minutes. Ndauleng Lechela, always right on the money with business, economics and market updates across the 3 hours. And lastly, Sipho Mantula with the Africa update, including his ever popular historical archive. And that is coming your way at about 20 to 7 this morning. Through it all, let's have the conversation. Call me on 086 000 2032, 086 002032, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note or a message on 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. This is the morning brief. Context, consequence, and conversation starting now.
The Proteas believe nothing is as exhilarating as beating a tough opponent, while the Windies want to delight the people of West Indies. This is the third T20 international match. Be part of it. South Africa versus West Indies on Saturday, 31 January at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2 with reports on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Awuchitheka umshibo. Regional giants have a tense and dramatic meeting. Amakhosi tackles Zigamambo. This is the CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the Southern African Derby, Kaizer Chiefs versus Zesco United, this Sunday, 1 February at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC 1. Then on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's get started with Melissa Puta, who's got the morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. The Commander-in-Chief of the SANDF gave a clear instruction and an order, but it seems somewhere along the chain of command, that order was not carried out, and now the result is that as if we need another inquiry. But here we are.
Here we are indeed. Good morning, Thulasizwe. Retired Judge Bernard Ngobe has been appointed to chair a board of inquiry into allegations concerning Iran's role in the naval exercise Will for Peace, following reports that President Cyril Ramaphosa's order to limit Iran to observer status was ignored. Defense Minister Anzi Motshekga established the board, which also includes Judges M.M. Liu and C. Satchel and retired Rear Admiral P.T. Duze to investigate and establish all the facts surrounding the matter.
So, school placements, infrastructure and textbooks and learner and teacher support materials have been under the spotlight, Melissa, since the start of the new schooling year. Now, Build One South Africa is stepping forward with what they believe will be a solution?
Yes, so Build One South Africa, BUSA, has launched a schools complaints hotline to address ongoing challenges in the basic education system, including placement delays, infrastructure failures, and textbook shortages. The initiative comes just weeks into the 2026 academic year, with some grade 1 and grade 8 pupils still set to be without school placements. The email-based hotline allows parents, students, and teachers to report issues directly, which BUSA says will be escalated to the Minister of Basic Education and Parliament for urgent action. The party also called for broader education reforms, including raising the pass mark, creating an independent education ombudsman, improving teacher conditions, and auditing teacher skills, aiming to ensure every pupil has access to proper learning environments. So this is quite an interesting initiative, and we'll have to see how far it goes and how well it works.
Yeah, the Madlanga Commission has Major General Lesetja Senona, as the brief commentary I gave a few minutes ago indicates. Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating the same allegations that were first leveled by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi is itching to hear from two witnesses, but they can't seem to pin them down.
Not at all. So EFF MP Leanne Matthys criticized the National Assembly Speaker Thotko Didiza for delays in issuing subpoenas for Paul O'Sullivan and Brown Mkhosi amid the ad hoc committee's investigation into allegations by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Matthys accused Parliament of turning the committee into a rubber stamp and failing to support its work, citing limited resources and delayed witnesses. Mkhosi demanded Parliament fund his private security for 7 days, while O'Sullivan requested virtual attendance. The committee refused to allow witnesses to dictate its own conditions, and the Patriotic Alliance MP Ashley Souls called the demands ludicrous and stressed respect for parliamentary authority, while Freedom Front Plus MP Walter Wessels noted the committee's broad mandate makes meaningful action difficult. The situation is set to highlight administrative challenges and tensions between witnesses and Parliament as the committee works towards its report. So this is one we'll have to watch closely and see how this develops and at what point the two witnesses will show before the committee.
Let's see how it gets resolved. Thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the morning brief in brief for this morning.
Thulasizwe Simelane, the morning brief Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
21 minutes after 6. On the weather front, I've got a warning and an advisory for you that's come through from the Weather Service. So the warning is a yellow level 2 warning, and it is in place over vast parts of the Free State, the Northwest, Gauteng, western parts of KwaZulu-Natal, and southern parts of Mpumalanga. That yellow level 2 warning is for severe thunderstorms with localized flooding of susceptible roads, low-lying areas and bridges, large amounts of small hail, and localized damage to infrastructure due to winds. So that's that warning then. It's a yellow level 2 warning over those regions. Then the advisory is for hot and humid weather that will result in very uncomfortable conditions over the central and eastern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Other than that, your weather looks like this. Pretoria, partly cloudy with scattered afternoon thunder showers with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 30. Johannesburg, partly cloudy with scattered afternoon thunder showers, 15 to 28. Vereeniging, partly cloudy with scattered afternoon thunder showers, 17 to 28. Mbombela will be partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 21 to 29. Polokwane, partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 17 to 29. Mahikeng, partly cloudy with scattered afternoon thunder showers, 19 to 33. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy with scattered afternoon thunder showers, 18 to 33. Kimberley, same conditions, partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 22 to 36. Uppington will be fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 24 to 40. Cape Town will be fine with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 31. George, partly cloudy, 18 to 26. Gqeberha, cloudy with isolated light showers and rain, 19 to 24. East London, cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 20 to 24. Gugombo City. Durban, cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 24 to 28. Richards Bay, partly cloudy, 21 to 31. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog, otherwise cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers, 20 to 26.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
At 23 minutes after 6, let's turn to this story. U.S.-Iran tensions are escalating once again after the U.S. President Donald Trump warned Tehran that, quote-unquote, time is running out to negotiate a deal on its nuclear program as Washington builds up a significant military presence in the Gulf. While Iran says it is open to dialogue, both sides are trading sharp rhetoric, raising fears of further confrontation in an already volatile region. Let's speak to Velem Els, Senior Training Coordinator on Terrorism Explosives at the Institute for Security Studies. Velem, good morning, and thank you for your time.
Good morning to you.
So, if the focus is not on Venezuela or Greenland, it is now on Iran. What are the factors at play here against the backdrop of the strikes, military strikes that the U.S. undertook last year on some of Iran's nuclear facilities?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. You see, if we look at that, the style of President Trump in how he's negotiating is very much in a very aggressive business-like style and not very political and also if we can say diplomatic. So and I think the people that he is in the countries that he is negotiating with or dealing with should have by now picked up how he's doing it, and they should have adapted to how to either work with him or try to counter him. So what we see here with Iran in the past is it's got a very long history with this nuclear program of them, with their aspirations, and we can see if you look at the history that there's a lot of back and forth and not a lot of progress has been made, and we see that President Trump is very aggressive, and we can expect that should there not be progress, alternative methods will be used, and that is the backdrop of where this is playing from, and so there's a lot of pressure on Iran, as you mentioned, that after the 12-day war, they've been weakened significantly, and at the end of the day, they've never been in a more vulnerable vulnerable position as now. And that is where you, if you go into negotiations like this, you want to be in a strong point and a point of advantage. And I think that is where the US is at the moment, and not Iran.
But hang on, Velem. Didn't the US last year say already that its strikes were so effective that it has set back Iran's nuclear program and, in fact, completely destroyed it, annihilated it?
Yeah, there were conflicting, and it was all intelligence reports at the moment, but it emanated and it came from that yes, it was significantly weakened, but it was not destroyed, and I think hence the new rhetoric and also the new build-up because in the aftermath of that, Iran then made quite a few significant statements that it was not destroyed, and that their aspirations to obtain their nuclear weapons is still there, and they want to continue with it.
What are the regional dynamics in the Gulf, in the Middle East, with Iran, Israel, and other players? So, as other players within that region are watching, what will be some of the likely reaction that we are likely going to see from what the U.S. president is saying and the actions being taken, moving that armada into the Gulf?
Yeah, well, in the region, you see there are certain of the countries we see, like for instance the UAE and to some extent Saudi Arabia as well. They would like to have things stabilized. They would like, it seems that they don't want an escalation on this and to focus more on the diplomatic outcome. But you see that countries like Qatar and some of the other countries that are also there, they actually opened their ground space, their airspace and Jordan as well for a possible attack. So there's not consensus within the region, especially among the Arab countries, on how to deal with the situation. But we see that at the end of the day, that there's also a sort of a tug of war on who is the leader in the region between the Arab world, between the UAE and Saudi Arabia on the one side, and also then Iran on the other side. There's got aspirations to be the leader in the group in the region in terms of the Arab world. So and then of course you've got Israel alone standing on the one side. So at the end of the day, there's a tug of war going on and so on, but. The destabilizing factors at the moment is, on the one hand, it is Iran, and the other hand, it is Israel. And unless they can sort out their challenges, we're going to sit with this for a very long time.
And can these harsh words, this rhetoric, Velem, can it be decoupled from the protests that have been happening in Iran in recent weeks and the position taken very early on during those protests by the Trump administration, by the U.S. president, that he would not hesitate to intervene should Iran be seen to be killing those protesters, with reports now, coming forth that quite a large number of protesters have actually been killed in response to those protests?
Yeah, I think you rightly say, the response of the regime in Iran against the protests, it weakened their situation, and not only the world, but also with President Trump and America, because at the end of the day, if you look at how it happened, there are estimates and some reports of in some instances up to 30,000, some 11, 12,000. So we've got various reports on that. But at the end of the day, if you look at that, the way they did it and reports coming out, it weakened them. And the problem that Trump has, that he, in the beginning, he warned them that if they escalate and if they do that, he will intervene. And we know that his credibility is now at stake. So that actually sort of upped the temperature there. Also placed some pressure on President Trump to respond decisively.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you for your insights. That's Velem Els, Senior Training Coordinator on Terrorism and Explosives at the Institute for Security Studies. Let's go to the headlines. Dineo, are you there? Dineo.
All right, here to us.
It's like campus radio once again.
Oh,
it's
okay.
like RU, it's radio annex. Dineo
Okay.
and Tulas.
Let's do that.
Take it away, Dee.
Thank you, Tulas. A very good morning. Let's take a look at the headlines at 6:30. Acting Police Minister Firoz Kachalia has announced the permanent deployment of armored police vehicles and officers at the Sporong informal settlement near Randfontein in Gauteng's West Rand. In other news, retired Judge President Bernard Mwebe has been appointed to chair a 4-member board of inquiry tasked with investigating whether the South African National Defence Force disregarded President Cyril Ramaphosa's instructions regarding Iran's participation in Exercise Will for Peace 2026. And US President Donald Trump has again threatened Iran with military action, pressuring the country to negotiate a deal on nuclear weapons. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We're tracking some heavy traffic on the M1 North around Pretoria this morning. It is easing. It looks like probably overnight roadworks at overran. N1 North up towards Stormful Road. Very busy, very unexpected going that way on that route, but it is easing. That's the good news. Staying in the capital, the mighty Mopani Highway heavy today from Theo Martin's Jam, no gaps all the way down to Eskia Pathlali Drive. Joburg side, the M1 North, heavy again this morning. It's by far and away the heaviest highway across the Joburg region. We're talking N1 North from the Potch Highway up into the Deep Cliff Interchange. Durban, a crash between Gateway and Kwamashu, the N2 South, just struggling along after that collision scene. Just coming through from the airport, you will hit some delays, but again, it appears to be an easing situation. And Cape Town, a pedestrian knockdown on the M7 Jakes Curvell Drive, leaving Mitchell's Plain at Turfall earlier this morning. That scene is cleared, the traffic is moving, and if you're leaving Athlone, Jan Smuts running up towards Crombourne Road, quite an unusual backlog on that run through. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. So Amakosi are climbing on that log, yeah?
Oh, yeah, Tulas, they're climbing and they're closing the gap. So suddenly the calculators are all out now at Naturina, because you know what? Chiefs are right in the title mix. They are second on the Betway Premiership log, just 2 points behind leaders Mamelodi Sundowns after a 1-0 win over Maruma Gallants in Bloemfontein last night. Claudie Lepo scored the decisive goal, but co-coach Cedric Kaze has urged caution, saying there's still plenty of work to be done as Chiefs turn their focus to Sunday's CAF Confed Cup clash against Zesco United. In the meantime, the Maruma Gallants coach, Alexander Lafite, he was left exasperated after his side's lackluster performance. The Frenchman says they played with the required energy in the first half, but dropped the intensity after the second.
You know, sometimes the football is against you because you don't have all the energy, the same energy for that. And I know it's difficult, but you need to have the same intensity. You see, when you start the second half, each player decreases the intensity. And for that, you create opportunity for opponent to score. I'm sure if you score in first half, the game is different. But if you doesn't score, it's important to have the same energy and don't want to concede.
Elsewhere, Liverpool stormed into the Champions League last 16 with a 6-0 thrashing of Karabakh at Anfield. Another match saw Arsenal sealing top spot in their Champions League phase with a 3-2 victory over Kairat Almaty. In the meantime, Tottenham booked their place as well. Champions League last 16 with a 2-0 win at Eintracht Frankfurt, and Erling Haaland ended his 5-game goal drought as Manchester City beat Galatasaray 2-0 to reach the Champions League last 16. And on to some rugby news. Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus says fly half is now a position of strength ahead of the new international season, but admits concerns remain at lock while the Boks boast depth at number 10, including Henry Pollard, Manie Libbok, Damien Willemse and Jordan Hendrickse. Erasmus saying experienced second-row options are thinner, with injuries and future retirements a key worry as planning continues towards the 2027 World Cup. Our sports planning will continue with more sport top of the hour. For the morning brief, I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
And for that, we turn to Ndauling Lichela, who's got your latest update. Ndauling, let's start in the United States. We're watching what the Fed has been doing in as far as rates are concerned, and they've decided to use your phrase, stand pat.
That's right, Silas. Now, the move was widely expected. Policymakers keeping the benchmark rate in a 3.5 to 3.75% range after cutting rates 3 times last year. The decision was not unanimous, with Governors Chris Waller and Stephen Miran dissenting in favor of a quarter-point cut, citing lingering concerns about labor market momentum. Now, the Fed upgraded its assessment of the economy to solid, pointing to stronger GDP growth and expectations of continued expansion. While inflation remains above target, officials said job market risks have eased, removing language that previously flagged rising downside risks to employment. Fed Chair Jerome Powell stressed that policy decisions will remain data dependent and taken meeting by meeting. Now, yesterday's meeting comes amid growing political pressure from President Trump, as Powell warned that preserving the Fed's independence is critical to maintaining its credibility.
Tell me about Samsung's Q4 performance. You're saying that it has beat market expectations.
Now, Samsung's latest earnings to us, they highlight how the global chip shortage, is being driven by storage for AI rather than consumer gadgets. The company reported a more than 200% jump in its fourth quarter operating profit, while revenue rose about 24%. And that surge was powered by strong demand for memory chips used in AI servers, increasing competition among global rivals. What we are seeing with Samsung is that memory chip division is doing way better than its consumer electronics division, on the back, of course, of demand for that AI boom, which is increasing demand for memory chips. Now, Samsung remains the market leader there, but competitors such as SK Hynix are gaining ground as they expand capacity for data center chips. Samsung says demand linked to AI is expected to keep supporting earnings, even as its smartphone business faces slower growth and tougher competition.
So how did we close yesterday in Dowling, and how are we starting the day in those markets that have started trading?
So U.S. stocks ended mixed as the Fed kept its policy rate unchanged. Traders also assessing tech earnings from Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla. And then coming back home, stocks also mixed, but gold passing through another record high on escalating U.S.-Iran tensions. The safe haven trade boosting local miners, resulting in a near 5% jump in the Resi 10, which then saw the ore share hit another milestone, closing above 125,000 points, up 1.3%. We did see some losses in the financial 15 as well as the industrial 25. Over in currency markets, the rand continues its tear to us, now below 1570 to the dollar. Those gains were broad-based at 2170 to the pound and 1880 to the euro. Geopolitical tensions influencing oil markets this morning, particularly those US-Iran tensions, which saw oil trade higher at $67 a barrel. Citibank analysts now expect Brent to reach $70 a barrel this year on the back of increasing geopolitical tensions. Risks associated with US-Iran tensions also weighing on Asian equities this morning, with trade choppy. Investors are also assessing earnings, particularly those numbers out from Samsung this morning.
You know, Ndauling, as a journalist, you'll know this feeling when you're speaking to someone and they're laying it out for you and you're just nodding, you're nodding. Meanwhile, you're like, Tata or Mama, what on earth are you talking about? In your mind,
you just... feeling like that?
So I've been feeling like this, but you know when so much water has passed under the bridge and you're thinking, but if I ask now, it's going to be awkward. What is the Resi 10? What's that?
The Resi 10 is short for Resources 10.
Hey, kodwa Ntawuling, hayi ngeke.
Ask, you must ask.
So, I've just been grappling with it in my mind. Hey, should I ask? Should I not ask? Should I just nod? Act like
Resource, now you know. Resources 10.
Great. Thank you. We'll talk later. Darling Lechala, we'll come back just after 7:30 with another update.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Someone who doesn't dribble me. Sipho Mantula, good morning to you, Raz. Let's continue on the theme of finances and money. Money involving the IMF and Zambia. So there's a final review that's happening, yeah?
Refreshing morning, Thulas, and a Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, but this is not for the first time Zambia is going to the IMF. But also, let's look at this trigger, Thulas. Zambia going for the elections during this year in August. So others are saying they are facing what they call double-digit inflation. Zambia has tried 4 years ago to ask for 1.3 billion. It was later revised to 1.7. This time they've asked for 145 million loan. They were given 190 million, meaning plus unlocking coming from the IMF. This board will have to decide by the end of this month in terms of finalizing this loan to Zambia. Like I said, there are some challenges, but it appears Hakainde is going to rely on what he says, domestic revenues and markets, and any other partners who will plug in. And we have seen Washington has moved towards Lusaka in terms of that health package. We don't know whether WHO, is it US in parallel? Because once the US has went to Zambia with the health package to us, it means it's health package for minerals, nothing else. The loans also for IMF is for minerals of Zambia.
Sure, yeah, that trade-off, yeah. Let's talk South Sudan and the African Union. You're saying that the AU is urging a de-escalation.
It's worrying because I saw the Foreign Affairs Minister also met with the AU chairperson yesterday, Yusuf. And remember we spoke about the C5 where South Africa is leading under Ronald Lamola. I don't know whether the AU summit that is coming next month, will they understand that the challenges that we are facing now is that in the Jongeli state, is where John Garang was born. Now you have a escalation of crisis that has been going on for the past week in terms of the government forces and the forces belonging to Riek Machar. And that's where they are worried that there will be an escalation of a conflict that will be a full scale. And they are worried about the humanitarian crisis. The AU is calling IGAD, the UN, the international partners, but I didn't see the C5 because one will assume that the C5 to us is also under the revitalization agreement on the resolution of the conflict there. So you need that neighboring states, you need the role of South Africa in assisting the South Sudan because we have a problem in the north, but on the south also, how do we deal with it? We have the deputy president who is an envoy. Yesterday there was a meeting of the cabinet, the extended cabinet to us. I hope on international affairs on the SONA for next month, they will touch on our role in the South Sudan. How are we assisting the South Sudan and the North Sudan?
So in the land of the upright, Sipho, Captain Traore's government is signing up to an important piece of international law.
This piece of international law, Thulas, it came into force in 1977. It was opened for signature in 1963. South Africa is a signatory. It's a UN Vienna Convention. It's a long one, Thulas. It's Vienna Convention on Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage. Why is Ouagadougou going there, Thulas? In June last year, they engaged Moscow, where there are going to be an agreement with Rosatom to build almost 20 nuclear energy plants in Burkina Faso. Now they are signing this to us because this is a law that allows the minimum standards to provide financial protection against damaging that will result from other, they say, peaceful uses of the nuclear energy. This is a very important international instrument to us. If when I was looking into it, to say many countries are into it, and we see with the escalation of the U.S. military strength that they are trying to wage. It reminds us of Iraq 2003. They went in, they said they were weapons of mass destruction. This was the law that they were supposed to use also in terms of looking at it. So Burkina Faso is a signatory. The parliament allowed this week that they must be the signatory to the Vienna Convention on Civil Damages.
So some of us can't keep the same job for 2 to 5 years, thereabouts. But in your historical archive, you're going to tell us about someone who's been in the same job since the 29th of January, 1986.
It's 4 decades, 40 years ago. He was coming from the bush. He was trained by Frelimo, by the way, Museveni, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. After 5 years in the bush, he was sworn in as a Ugandan president on this day. You'll recall that Uganda has gone through a lot. There was a time of Milton Obote. There was a time where also they had to put General Tito Okello, who headed Uganda in that transition of 1985 to 86. And that's where Museveni, entering Kampala, coming from Frelimo, which was trained, he became the president. For the listeners, it's an interesting book, Thulas, a recent one, fresh, by Mamdani, Maumad Mamdani, who wrote a book on the slow poison, the making of Ugandan state. He makes a parallel between Idi Amin and Museveni. And he says nothing new from both of them. The other one, he used revolutionary warfare, but now Museveni is using violence against other opposition. He was a revolutionary, was trained, but he has changed. But in that book, listeners can just try to get hold of it. The slow poison. He talks about Ugandan politics, and I think Mamdani has done a great job there to us by just unpacking the life history of Museveni. And that's where I picked up there that he was trained also in Mozambique, in Frelimo. That's how he went back into Kampala during those years of Milton Obote. Asante sana Thulas, as to are still leading the Truvezation, SFM, observing the education.
Sipho, thank you. Always on point there with that historical archive. Always fascinating. That's Sipho Mandula there with the Africa update for this morning.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Yeah, update from Pretoria, the M1 North, the earlier hold-ups just running up through Stormful towards Montana. That's all cleared. It looks like it may have been some overnight roadworks that overran on that section. Staying in Pretoria, the Mabopani Highway heavy, Theo Martins all the way down to SKM Pathleli Drive, SKM Pathleli coming down through Vanderhof into Marabastad. That is a heavy backlog as well. Looks like being a busy Thursday. Just having a look at the amount of traffic that's heading into Pretoria today. We've got a collision scene on the N3 going south at London Road, so from Limbro Park on your way to Edenvale, things starting to backlog through there. N3 at Spruit View's heavy, and the N1 North from the Eldo side up through Deep Cliff Interchange busy again this morning. Gets busy even earlier these days, and it gets heavy. Durban, earlier crash between Umhlanga and Komashi was holding things up badly. It's a little bit slow, but an improving situation. A lot of traffic coming slowly off the south coast. Munzam turning through Prospect, and haven't seen it this jam-packed for a while. Could be something happening around the Prospect and Road. There is a bit of rain and wet weather condition across Durban, so that may also be just contributing to that slowdown. But leaving the south coast on your way to Durban, it's heavy. Cape Town, R300 jammed again up into the Van Riebeeck Road exit. That is caused primarily by traffic coming out of Cowes River on Van Riebeeck across the R300 onto Strand Road, getting jammed into Stickland, so it just prevents that free flow coming off the R300. Just staying in Cape Town, that earlier smash involving a pedestrian, M7 before Turfall Road coming out of Mitchell's Plain, scene cleared, traffic moving again. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Welcome to it. This is season 1 of Playlist happening right here at Maloka, and believe me, it's a party.
Set your reminder every Friday, 9 p.m. Playlist at Maloka is in the building.
The Billy Goats are hunting for 3 points in their own backyard to find a suitable position in the top half, while Wolves believe only victory can unlock the door to comfort. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch FC Köln versus VfL Wolfsburg on Friday, 30 January at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
For over 60 years, African artists have performed at Montreux. Now, Montreux comes to Africa. Say yes to Montreux Jazz Festival French Hook, presented by Nedbank, a 3-day multi-genre celebration with 2 stages, African voices and unforgettable collaborations. From Salif Keita on the Archers to Madala Gunene and Sibusile Xaba in the Jazz Village. This is music with depth and connection. Tickets for the Archers stage are on sale now via ticketmaster.co.za. Say yes.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
10 minutes to 7. The South African Local Government Association, SALGA, has called for a fundamental overhaul of the country's municipal funding model, warning that local government is set up to fail under the current fiscal framework. Despite delivering nearly half of all public services, municipalities receive only about 10% of national fiscal resources. The call comes amid renewed political focus on local governance, including, for example, the ANC's decision to establish what it calls a war room to address service delivery failures and systemic challenges at municipal level. Let's speak to Bheki Stofile, President of the South African Local Government Association. Good morning to you, Mr. Stofile, and thank you for your time. It's a conversation that has been amplifying bit by bit that something fundamental needs to change in the way that local government is funded versus its mandate. Let's start with the system as it is now. What is the funding mix for local government versus what it needs to deliver?
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe. Greetings to you and to your listeners, and thank you for having us. The local government currently is funded around 10%, 4.5% on the MIC, 5% on equitable share, and then when you put that together, it will give you 9.5%, 10%, if you want to call it in that way. And of course, it comes at the backdrop that the assumption made at the historical time was that the municipal systems in South Africa will be able to collect almost 90%. And then that is why then the decision was to allocate that MICA allocation. Because at the time when the white paper and other development with regard to local government is concerned, believe that the economy will grow, the employment will be high, and then therefore the people will be able to pay services. What it has then shown going forward, the economy, instead of growing, contracted, and the unemployment rise, and the inability of paying, it became so high, and as a result of that, it affected the 9.5% that it was assumed to be sufficient resources. And that is why we are then saying it is important, as you focus to make local government function, which is important issue. If you learn from China, for instance, one of their focus and why now they're becoming a leading economist in the world, it was a focus to local government, put all energies in making sure that local government does work, and therefore proper funding can be allocated.
So a paper from a couple of years ago that I was looking at, that was breaking down the various sources that were assumed were going to be able to fund local government. They mentioned property rates and service charges, and then electricity service charges. Though, as you say, those assumptions have not materialized. What has been the result then for local government?
Then yes, it was correct. Those property rates and many other things. And remember, in the whole scheme of things, government exempted itself to pay properties. And you look into municipalities, there are properties that are owned by government, which they are not paying any rates to it. And then the burden, it became the households, the ownership, the owners of such properties. And what then happened is that the financial disposal or resources disposed to local government became so small to a point that they can't meet the objective. And that's why our debate and discussion is that as we look into different instruments, for instance, you made just in your introduction that the ANC took a decision to put a particular structure to look into that. That structure won't succeed because you will find the same problem as long as there is no financial resources injected. And that is why we are saying it is important to have a holistic outlook insofar as the funding model is concerned.
As far as budgets for local government go, what are the main line items that gobble up most of the whatever revenue, those that are able to collect, from residents, what they're supposed to collect, as well as those transfers and grants. What really gobbles up? What are some of the key line items?
As you know, if you look into in terms of the Section 152 of the Constitution, major functions, and that is why in the statement that we have released, we said almost half of the functions of the government are performed by local government. That it includes the matters pertaining to economic development, and you use only two instruments to collect, and that will be your water and electricity, and of course garbage collection. And if you look into the reforms generally as puppeted by the national government, and that puts threat and strain into the ability of local government to collect using those instruments, because those instruments are the major instruments that are bringing sufficient, supposed to bring sufficient resources into local government. So you had to spend money on fixing the road, fixing the water network, fixing the electricity on an allocation that is so meager that is unable to respond to those challenges. And that is why we are then saying it is important to have a comprehensive relook insofar as those issues is concerned.
I didn't know, to be honest, Mr. Stofile, that government exempted itself from paying property rates. That makes a big difference, doesn't it? If government properties were paying rates, that would make a huge difference.
It does. Look, Thulasizwe, it will require some sufficient time to unpack what it means. That if you look vis-a-vis properties that belong to government, to state, in different municipalities throughout the country, in which it is exempted.
Yeah.
And remember, part of this issue, using the intergovernmental relations framework, it is important that part of these elements to be supported by central government by providing financial muscle in which it covers the gap in which they themselves they're not paying.
So this conversation about needing to change the model then, and this is one of those things about South Africa that always puzzles me. We don't battle to identify what the problem is. The words you are saying as Salga have actually come out from people including the finance minister, the president, and other people. But getting to that point really takes some time. Are we making any progress?
Look, already in the last 2 years, as you know that 2 or 3 years, as you know that Salga will be celebrating its 30th in this year since its establishment. Part of our work that we have done is to delve deeper into what is the funding gap that we are talking about. And you'll be amazed. And I think last time I released the statistics insofar as what is our funding with regard to our investigation research that we have conducted insofar as funding gap is concerned, is counted to billions. That is a shortfall that it's supposed to have been gone to municipalities, and therefore municipalities contribute in transforming the spaces and investing on economy so that the life and services are changed.
But of course, the flip side of the conversation, Mr. Stofile, as a parting shot, even if the funding model were to change fundamentally and the equitable share that goes to local government increases, it would all be in vain unless municipalities themselves improve their own governance systems and their ability to spend that money, because in some instances that little money that already comes from the equitable share sometimes is returned to national treasury for failure to spend it.
Yes, it will be like that, Thulasizwe, because most of the time we speak on what it appears on our eyes. You must go back to my statement in Parliament as part of response to President Ramaphosa's State of the Nation. What we then said in the Parliament at that time, which we have never entered into conversation and debate about it, because probably my assumption is that all of us will know what I was saying. What we then said at that time, President Ramaphosa and the entire cabinet, it must help local government to cut the invisible hand, because are so significant political interference in the running of a municipality. And as you attempt to professionalize local government, it is important also to deal with the element that is an external influence or force that makes some of these things that you are seeing appearing happening. Because what is happening most importantly is that as municipalities plan and execute their plan, external view come to municipality and say, no, but not that one. That one must go to somebody. That is an invisible band that we are talking about.
All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your insights. Bheki Stofile is president of the South African Local Government Association, SALGA. Let's go to Dineo Mutaung on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Thank you, Tulas. Top stories: heavy police deployment for Gauteng's Sporong settlement, and tensions rise as Trump targets Iran's nuclear program. A very good morning. Acting Police Minister Firoz Kachalia has announced the permanent deployment of armored police vehicles and officers at the Sporong informal settlement near Randfontein on Gauteng's West Rand. Kachalia visited the area yesterday and said the move is to ensure the safety of residents. The minister was accompanied by Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi and National Commissioner Fanima Semola. Hundreds of families had fled their homes and sought refuge at a local hall, fearing illegal miners who they said were threatening and harassing them at their homes. The minister's spokesperson is Kamukhelo Mokgotsi.
During the Premier's previous visit, short-term measures were implemented to stabilize the area. These included the deployment of Nyalas and additional police officers to ensure the safety and security of residents. As part of longer-term interventions, Nyalas and SAPS members will now be deployed on a permanent basis. In recognition of the community's vulnerability, night patrols will also be conducted by SAPS members in collaboration with local community patrollers.
KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head Major General Lesetja Sinona has told the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry that he did not open documents sent to him by Vusmusi Ket Madlala, including the identity of President Cyril Ramaphosa. Evidence the commission from Witness X states that Madlala sent General Sinona 3 different ID numbers allegedly belonging to the president. Responding to evidence leader advocate Adila Hassim, Sinona says he did not question Madlala about why the documents were sent to him.
You know, these documents, when I look at them now, because it's now that I see the contents, I would have reported this to my principal.
So you would have reported this to your principal?
Yes, because it is unusual that a private person can have these documents. So I didn't open them. I didn't know what was inside. But if I knew, commissioners, definitely I would have written an information note to my supervisor, informing him about this, what I've just discovered with a person of.
In other news, retired Judge President Bernard Nwebe has been appointed to chair a 4-member board of inquiry tasked with investigating whether the South African National Defence Force disregarded President Cyril Ramaphosa's instructions regarding Iran's participation in Exercise Will for Peace 2026. The naval exercises were conducted in Simonstown in the Western Cape. The other members of the board are Judge Monica Lowe, Judge Kathleen Satchwell, and Rear Admiral Patrick Duze. Defense Department spokesperson Piwe Dlamini elaborates.
The Minister of Defense and Military Veterans has set up a board of inquiry to establish all facts around the exercise. The aim of the board of inquiry is to investigate and report on all the serious allegations that the President's instruction may have not been carried out, misrepresented and or ignored regarding the participation of the Islamic Republic of Iran Navy.
We move to the Eastern Cape now, where the Makana municipality based in Makhanda has urged residents to boil water before use. The advisory comes after water from Hausensport Dam, a critically low main raw water source, turned brown. Municipality spokesperson Anele Mjekula says the dam is currently at 26% capacity, which has caused the discoloration due to natural elements such as iron and manganese. Mjekula has emphasized that tests have shown these elements are not at harmful levels, but boiling water is recommended as a precaution. Lastly, U.S. President Donald Trump has again threatened Iran with military action, pressuring the country to negotiate a deal on nuclear weapons. Trump warned Iran that his possible next strikes would be far worse than those last June. Iran insists its nuclear program is entirely peaceful and warned that any U.S. attack would prompt a response like never before. The BBC's Helena Humphrey has the details.
Donald Trump says that this is all about obtaining a nuclear agreement. Remember, in 2015, there was a nuclear accord which had been negotiated by the Obama administration. Instead, Donald Trump came into office. He promptly ripped up that agreement. This time around, he says he wants the Iranians to come to the table to make a deal that it's more stringent when it comes to the enrichment of uranium, and then also curbing the influence of Iran in the region.
Recapping the top story, the SAWA acting police minister Firoz Kachalia has announced the permanent deployment of armored police vehicles and officers at the Sporong informal settlement near Randfontein on Gauteng's West Rand. Headlines at 7:30 for SFM News. I'm Dino Motaung.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. 63-year-old Almero knows all about saving with Outsurance.
We do save 417 Rand. That's about 5,000 Rand a year.
That's an awesome saving on Almero's 2021 Ford Ranger.
And there's an out bonus that you get if you don't claim for 3 years. I am really looking forward to it.
How much money could Outsurance save you? Get a quote now. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer action. Kaizer Chiefs tighten the title race. Amakosi now just 2 points behind Mamelodi Sundowns after leapfrogging Orlando Pirates. And in rugby, coach Rassie Erasmus keeps a close eye on URC derbies with fringe Springboks playing for their Bok futures. Let's find out more just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It's a heavy backlog coming out of Pretoria using the Mopani Highway and Esky and Patrelli Drive. Traffic all the way from Theo Martins right down into Marabastad. There's not too many gaps in that traffic flow this morning. Out of Pretoria North, while we're staying there, some traffic lights down. Paul Kruger at Lavender. So Rakul de Beer coming out of the north is slow. And Sefako Makato busy both ways around the N1 highway on ramps. So crash in on Joburg's N3 South, just down by London Road. If you're moving through Alex towards Edenvale, that is holding you up. There's a lot of traffic on Malabongwe this morning from North Riding to Stratham Park via the N1, and Bayers Nordia lights off at the M1 highway, so delays on that run through as well. Durban, bit of rain this morning, so take it easy in the traffic. There's quite a backlog coming off the south coast of Monsamtoti through Prospect, and very heavy Higginson Highway at Chatsworth towards Mobeni, heading towards the N2 is bad. The N2 jamming solidly from the M7 through Westwood Mall area. Crash on Komashu Highway leaving Komashu before Industrial Park Drive, so quite a heavy delay there as well. And then Cape Town side, the R300 jam-packed again this morning from Delft up to a problematic Strand Road off-ramp for a turn into Stickland, and the N1 inbound pretty solid as well from the R300 to the Coburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7. Welcome to the second hour of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. Quickly reflecting on some of the messages that are coming through. Someone says there's a strike on the R40 around Marite in Bushbuck Ridge, Palaburwa Road closed off by trucks. So if you are anywhere near that area, do call it in, yeah? Just share with us what you are observing and what you know about that situation. But do that and do it safely without endangering yourself, just from a distance. Let us know, share details, alternative routes, how people can avoid being caught up in that situation on the R40 around Marite. Bushbuck Ridge, Palaburwa Road, according to this person, closed off by trucks. Then Jen in Cape Town, weighing in on my conversation with Begis Stofile a few minutes ago, says, your guest didn't mention labor costs as the biggest drain on the fiscus. A recent study showed 3 workers doing one person's job in many municipalities. We need value for money. Jen, you're absolutely spot on about the burden of personnel costs at local government level. The paper I was alluding to puts it at about 29.4%. That was a couple of years ago. I'm pretty sure the figure has since been updated now. 29.4% thereabouts of total local government operating expenditure going to workers, employees, personnel costs. And then the other big expenditure item being bulk purchases. So your water, when they pay the water boards, your Eskom, and when they pay Eskom, whenever they can pay Eskom or they're not delinquent in their payment of Eskom, that accounts for about 21%. That was a few years ago. I must emphasize that. I'm pretty sure those figures have since been updated. In the next few minutes, I'll be in conversation with Professor William Gumede. We'll be talking about the phenomenon of name changes. Soon, East London will be no more. East London that never was in the east of London in the UK. That was in the southeastern corner of South Africa. It will soon be Gugompo City. The town of Graaff-Reinet will soon be Robert Sobukwe Town, and a few other name changes that have been gazetted. All of this happening while there's a debate that has been sparked by the Amazulu King, Misuzulu Gazweltini, about the possibility of dropping the Natal part in the name of the province, KwaZulu-Natal, such that it becomes KwaZulu. Professor William Gumede will weigh in on that in the next few minutes. And then immediately after that, we'll touch base with Kenny Mapanga, recapping that extraordinary, that jaw-dropping, that astounding testimony of one Major General Lesetja Senona. My goodness. Add to that, to the list of infamy, to the role of infamy in this country, add that name, Major General Lesetja Senona, after yesterday's performance at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Kenny Mapanga will recap what we saw and give us a sense of where we're going as he's set to return to this witness stand once again today. Do give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032 086 000 2032. It may be on these issues or any other matters that you want to raise. Or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note or a message on 0614 104 107 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The second hour of the morning brief on this Thursday starts now.
The Proteas believe nothing is as exhilarating as beating a tough opponent. While the Windies want to delight the people of West Indies. This is the third T20 international match. Be part of it. South Africa versus West Indies on Saturday, 31 January at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2 with reports on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. Regional giants have a tense and dramatic meeting. Amakosi tackles Zigamambo. This is the CAF Confederation Cup. Experience the Southern African Derby, Kaizer Chiefs versus Zesco United. This Sunday, 1 February at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC1. Then on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
It will soon be goodbye to East London, which is not and never has been in the east of the British capital at all, and hello to Gugompo City, right here in the southeastern corner of South Africa. The change is part of a broader wave of approved geographical name changes, with Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Gayton Mackenzie signing off on 21 new names across the country. In the Eastern Cape alone, the decisions carry both symbolic weight and political sensitivity, including the renaming of Graaff-Reinet to Robert Sobukwe Town in honor of one of the country's most influential and iconic anti-apartheid thinkers. At the same time, you've seen this debate that has been sparked by a proposal and a suggestion perhaps by the Amazulu King Misuzulu Zwelithini, talking about the possibility of dropping the Natal part of the name of the province, such that the province would, if that proposal is carried through, be known as KwaZulu. Let's bring in Professor William Gumede, Associate Professor at the School of Governance at Wits University. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. So, all these years since we started this project, I read somewhere that we've had 1,500 geographic name changes, features that have been changed since 1994. What is your overall impression of this wave that is being talked about in the Eastern Cape, but also around what King Misuzulu is suggesting around KwaZulu-Natal?
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners, and I wish everyone the best 2026. And thank you for having me. We've got a process on how to change names of towns and provinces, and always the issues. I mean, under it, what drives it or what should drive it is whether the existing name is offensive, whether it is colonial. And again, the context, if it's offensive, if it's racist, and so on. That really is at the heart of it. And then the public consultation around it, it's very, very critical. And of course, then we also have to look at where we are at the moment as a country. Will it drive reconciliation, or will it cause even more divisions? And then lastly, the cost of changing the name. Is it worthwhile if, for example, if a name is not offensive, if a name change will undermine, let's say, national unity, and if it would be very, very costly, then we have to look at all the weight of all of that. Is it worthwhile to change the name?
So in terms of just advancing the project of reconciliation, have these name changes that we've had that effect? Some of the major ones over the years, do you believe that they've had that effect of entrenching our diversified streams of history, but a common shared trajectory and a journey that we've traversed for better or worse as a people?
Yes, because name change ultimately will have to, for me, if we're going to test the suitability of a name change, is also one aspect must be, can it unify the country? Can it take us forward together? Now, what I've been worrying about, and I'm not now talking about specific, the kind of specific name changes, but over the years, that often what has happened is that people have pushed names changes in a very, very populist way, so that it appears that we have been concentrating on many occasions on changing names rather than focusing on real practical service delivery in areas. As often where changing of names became, number one, either sometimes an escapism for not dealing with some of the real issues of lack of development, corruption and incompetence and so on. So it's a deflection in some instances. And then the second one also, changing of many names have often caused more divisions in areas and in towns in some instances. And then thirdly, often, name changes often happen in some instances for absolute political reasons rather than reasons of unity, diversity, reconciliation, and bringing in sort of historical recognition of the past, because that is also important. So and that for me is the worry when a name change is really based on deflection of and not focusing on really genuinely wanting to bring change.
Yeah. The one that is being suggested by the Amazulu king, Misuzulu Gazwelithini, is a fascinating one. The debate, at least, has been fascinating with its supporters who say, absolutely, this is the way to go to affirm culture, tradition, and identity in KwaZulu-Natal. But the alternative view is that actually it could hark back to a period of balkanization of the country along tribal lines. What's your sense about that one? Dropping because the name as it is now grapples with both the dominant cultural stream in KwaZulu-Natal being KwaZulu, then the other one preserves the colonial story of that region being Natal. If you drop that, what's your thinking about that debate?
My view really is the name as it is currently brings together the two opposing past, of our past stories. So that is appropriate. I fear if we're going to change the name in which other way, anyway, that what will then happen is the balkanization really potential. Also, we have to think in the context where we are now. We're sitting at a country right now at the moment when we are starting to see the balkanization of the country, and it has started lack of political leadership at a national level. That for me is the most important. That's the most important reason. And for the lack of service delivery, the failure of the state, and so on, that has been the cause. And so we're now starting to see the symptoms. So I would rather say, specifically in KwaZulu-Natal, it's already, the names already from a provincial point of view, bringing together our past and our contested past and so on. Why do we want to disrupt it now? So that would be my fear. It would be just, we'll go down a route of causing more divisions rather than trying to unify. But more importantly for me is really, as South Africans, we're going to have to begin to look at focusing on the right issues. Focusing when I say the right issues, dealing with crime, dealing with lawlessness, getting competent leaders at every level, getting the state to function properly. If you can refocus the country's focus and priorities, rather than going into a deflection mode where we, focusing on really side issues and symptoms of problems.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Professor William Gumede, Associate Professor at the School of Governance at Wits University.
When choosing a medical aid, look carefully at the benefits. Like the benefit of cover that does more than just pay a claim. It pays you for living healthier. With the Personal Health Fund from Discovery Health Medical Scheme. The benefit of checkups, dental visits and healthy choices, earning you up to 20,000 Rand on top of your medical savings account for day-to-day healthcare. Just another benefit that makes Discovery Health Medical Scheme for your health like no other. Speak to your financial advisor or visit discovery.co.za to get a quote. Discovery Health Medical Scheme is a registered medical scheme.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
So there were many moments of audible disbelief at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry yesterday as a relationship described as quote-unquote brotherly between one of the country's most senior crime fighters and one of its most notorious alleged criminals was placed under the inquiry's microscope. For far too long during the painstaking inquiry hearing, the top cop in question, KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head Major General Thulasizwe Simelane, insisted that he could see no evil and hear no evil in that relationship with Vusumuzi Matlala. Simelane was to later concede that he had maintained a close relationship with attempted murder accused and alleged criminal syndicate member Vusumuzi Matlala, even after becoming aware of at least some of the allegations Matlala faces. But to say that the concessions followed hours of painstaking questioning by evidence leaders and the commissioners would be to really understate the case. Let's pick up the story with Kenny Mapanga, SABC News reporter tracking it all. Kenny, good morning. I said, when I started the show, I said, what on earth was that? What's your best answer to that question? What did we witness yesterday?
Good morning to you, Tulas, and to the listeners. I think what you're witnessing there is Major General Simelane is clearly being backed into a corner, and there really is no way out after all of those concessions that the cross-examination was able to uncover, that really collapsed his version, which sought to essentially tell us what he was trying to do. And I think he was trying to do it because he's fully aware of the implications of what he's accused of and what his conduct shows through the WhatsApp exchanges, is that he tried to water down his relationship with alleged cartel member Vusumuzi Matlala as that of a social relationship. They met at a wedding and that they only had social gatherings where they discussed current affairs and normal issues. However, the evidence runs contrary to that, because you can see that there's an exchange of confidential documents between the pair. We can see that they're meeting for long periods of time, and he's struggling to explain why he's meeting with this particular individual in the context of being a provincial Hawks head. But at the time, you're seeing that he has this posture where he agrees to knowing this individual, but he tries to separate himself from the alleged criminality. So he tries to say that he didn't know about the alleged criminal dealings of this particular individual, despite the fact that it was widely reported on with respect to the Barbita murder. And essentially, what you're seeing with him is that the pattern that I think you can draw from this is that he's fully aware of the implications and the consequences of this alleged association with Vusumuzi Matlala, and that is why he's trying to take this particular posture. However, the evidence and the WhatsApp exchanges is running contrary to this particular posture, which is why you're seeing him have such a difficult time, and the commission has to continuously point out these discrepancies and why his submission is simply untenable.
And he possibly could have gone far with his see no evil, hear no evil explanation of the relationship with Matlala, but for the exchanges on WhatsApp. Tell me about how this one particular article that he shares with Vusumuzi Matlala in March of last year became almost like the focus and one of the main points of the undoing of the position that he took, that was saying, he's my brother, my younger brother, but I didn't know he was allegedly involved in all of these things.
So the March article, that becomes the critical moment upon which he becomes wary or concerned of his younger brother regarding the alleged criminality that is associated with him, because that March article deals with, I think it was called the quote-unquote 9 lives, and it directly went into the Tembisa Hospital corruption and, of course, the Barbita Deokaran murder, and implicated Vusumuzi Matlala in alleged wrongdoing and with respect to this particular incident. Now, why this March article becomes quite significant to us is because he states that this is when he decided he was going to cut him off completely, that he wanted no association with this particular individual. But now the evidence runs contrary to that, because it shows he actually had no intention to cut this person off, and he was fully aware of those alleged criminal dealings, because in the WhatsApp exchanges, he then organizes a meeting between Matlala and the KZN top cop, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, in April of 2025. That is a meeting at the Pearls, which relates to that text message that you saw earlier that Sonona was reading. So it shows that he continued to show support to his younger brother, his friend, and he accompanied him to this meeting. Even worse, the WhatsApp exchanges show that they exchanged documents, they met several times, and the last time that they interacted was in May of 2025, and that was less than a day before his subsequent arrest by counterintelligence supported by the PKTT. So what it shows is that he actually had no intention to ever end this particular relationship.
Yeah.
And of course, he doesn't have an explanation as to why, because I think he fully understands, Thulas, what the implications of conceding to the fact that you were a provincial Hawkshead or are a provincial Hawkshead. You are aware of these alleged criminal dealings and you maintain association with this particular individual.
What is that General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi said in July last year? A cop can never be a friend with a criminal. But it seems in this instance, that cutting off has been the most gradual of gradual processes. Kenny Mapanga, thank you for that. Kenny Mapanga is watching the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. It continues today. Dineo Motaung on standby with the latest news headlines.
Thank you, Thulas. A very good morning. Let's take a look at the headlines at 7:30. The Johannesburg City Council will today debate a motion of no confidence in Mayor Dada Morero. In other news, Acting Police Minister Firoz Kachalia has announced the permanent deployment of armored police vehicles and officers at the Sporong informal settlement near Randfontein in Gauteng's West Rand. And as education authorities work to finalize outstanding learner placements in Gauteng, the impact of delays is increasingly being felt by learners. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
SAFM traffic with momentum. Just as you plan your route, only 15% of households plan for retirement. Plan yours today. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor for advice that meets your context.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Just want to start out at Mpumalanga with another urgent alert if you need to get the R40 route. This is just south of Bushbuck Ridge, so between Hazyview and Bushbuck Ridge, but in fact between Marite and Bushbuck Ridge, just on that section. Community again protesting. They've used at least a bus and a couple of trucks to block that section of the R40 and prevent motorists and through traffic. So again, Hazyview, Bushbuck Ridge on the R40, just leave it, go a little bit later once the authorities have managed to locate the keys or equipment to start those vehicles and or move them out of the way. It's a complete blockage of the R40, nothing getting through at this stage. Pretoria looking quite busy, particularly inbound to the city centre. Eskia and Pathali coming off the mighty Mopani Highway, heavy all the way into Barabastad. A lot of traffic around Pretoria East routes like Atterbury Road with some traffic lights. Solomon Mshlangu moving down through towards the Garsfontein Road junction, all very slow going in Pretoria East today. Crash on Joburg's N3 South near London Road. Big backlogs coming off the Buccleuch interchange. If you're on your way down to Edenvale or for flight connections, that's all really badly backed up. A lot of pressure as well. N1 north out of Soweto up to Gordon Road. Little incident around that Ridderport off-ramp causing those delays. If you're coming off Durban's south coast on your way into Durban, so N2 going north, crashes by Joiner Road, so the top of Tweedy Hill area coming to Prospect, and very heavy from Mansaptoti on the N2. And there's a really big backlog on the R102 alternative. Crash involving a truck on the M7 down towards the Belleville Road exit, Queensborough, going through Queensborough towards the Bluff, if you like, so the M7 eastbound, that's really badly backed up. Cape Town today, jam-packed again on that run up the R300. Saw it yesterday, seeing it again today. Problems on Strand Road as you come off the R300 into Stickland, and that's what holds you up on the R300. The rest of the highways fairly busy, but normal. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Some say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, sometimes it gets the grease, sometimes it gets replaced. Generic guidance only fits a few situations. That's why Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to understand you and only then apply their expertise. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. Marumo Gallant's coach, is it Alexandra Lafitte? Is it Lafitte?
Yes, Lafitte.
Is he fit? Well, we know he's exasperated because it would seem his spears are not sharp enough.
Hey, Thulas, you'll hear the frustration because it was a small margin, just a 1-0 scoreline. But guess what? This is football. There's 0 points for his team. Yeah, they lost to the Amakosi Kaizer Chiefs, a result that ended or extended their winless run to 6 matches for Gallants. Despite the setback, the Frenchman Alexander Lafitte insists the belief remains, saying Gallants must stay committed to their process.
No, the result, yes. Performance, no. And I'm confident because I know how I practice football and the new recruits. So I know if you continue the same thing, we can switch the results.
Let's go to Champions League action overnight. Liverpool stole the headlines with a 6-0 demolition of Karabakh. Barcelona cruising past Copenhagen 4-1. Manchester City beating Galatasaray 2-0. And Bayern Munich edged PSV 2-1. The shock of the night, Benfica stunning Real Madrid 4-2, while Chelsea held their nerve to beat Napoli 3-2. Let's go now to the rugby story that's making headlines. Stormers wasting no time licking their wounds after last week's 13-19 United Rugby Championship loss to the Sharks. The defeat, it snapped an 8-match unbeaten run, handing the Sharks their first ever win in Cape Town. Now with a quick turnaround, the sides meeting again on Saturday in Durban. The Stormers say it's a chance for an immediate response. Assistant coach Rito Shlongwane says the short gap between games allows for fast learning.
That probably gives you an opportunity to quickly, deal with the challenges that you faced, fix the mistakes that you made, and look for improvement. Instead of waiting 3-4 months to play them again, you get them this weekend. So it's quite a unique situation, which for the losing team is probably better. Quickly deal with your demons.
Let's go to tennis. Ben Shelton saying he's not discouraged despite losing in straight sets to world number 1 Yannick Sinner at the Australian Open quarterfinals. The 8th seed Shelton went down 6-3, 6-4, 6-4, with Sinner breaking once in each set and holding serve throughout. Now, in the meantime, Lorenzo Mussetti's Australian Open quarterfinal against Novak Djokovic ended in heartbreak. The Italian was forced to retire with a leg injury after leading 2-love. And that's your sport. We'll be back serving it up at the top of the hour. For the morning brief, I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndauling Lechela once again. Ndauling, let's talk telcos. The mantra is, at least in the last few days, has been data must fall and data expiry must fall. But the telcos are not so keen on that, are they?
They are not, Thulas, and the operators criticizing newly gazetted rules on the expiry of data, voice and SMS bundles, arguing the communications regulator ignored industry input. The Association of Communications and Technology, which represent Vodacom, MTN and Cell C, said it was still assessing the impact and considering its options. Meanwhile, ICASA said it began reviewing the rules in 2024 after finding that operators had evaded the spirit of the regulations, leading to consumer exploitation. Now, the regulator said the amendments set minimum standards that operators can still compete on. Alongside the final regulations, ICASA published a summary of public submissions showing strong opposition from MTN, Vodacom, Telkom, and Cell C. Now, operators argued ICASA had exceeded its mandate, that the rules are anti-competitive, could raise prices, and were introduced without regulatory impact assessment. Now, News 24 asked the operators whether they would consider a legal challenge, but none responded. And with a 12-month implementation window, time remains for any legal action should operators pursue it.
And now this data coming from Pay Inc. shows that, I don't know if our salaries are keeping up with Inflation. Maybe they're talking about your salary.
No, they're definitely not talking about my salary. But someone out there, one of the listeners,
someone's salary is keeping up with inflation.
Yep, that's what it seems like to us. Some local workers are starting to claw back lost ground after years of pressure on household finances, with Pay Inc. data, previously known as BankServe, showing that salaries are once again keeping pace with inflation, even if momentum slowed toward the end of last year. Now, according to the Pay Inc. Net Salary Index, which tracks more than 2.1 million earners, I'm sure I'm not part of the 2.1 million, surely.
We don't know, eh? We don't know.
Now, average nominal take-home pay ended December at 21,397 rands, up 1.8%, while nominal salary growth moderated to 3.7% for the year. Lower inflation meant workers still achieved a real income gain overall. Now, purchasing power did come under pressure due to renewed strain in the second half of the year as inflation edged higher, pushing real salaries lower on a month-to-month basis. Even so, with average inflation at just 3.2%, real pay rose by 0.5% in 2025. Independent economist Elise Kruger expects the recovery to extend into this year, supported by contained inflation and improving economic conditions.
What's moving and shaping the markets at this hour, Dowling?
So starting in Asia, markets taking a breather. Trade choppy this morning. Investors are sifting through earnings and keeping an eye on geopolitical developments. Now, that also influencing trade over in the US, with futures mostly in the green. Traders reacting to the Fed's decision to keep rates on hold and awaiting more tech earnings. Coming back home, the precious metals rally continues to give the JSE a boost, with the all-share closing 1.3% higher. The upbeat mood also spilling over into currencies, with the rand stronger against its international peers at 15.65 to the dollar, 21.66 to the pound, and at 18.75 to the euro. Oil also trending higher at $67 a barrel on increasing concerns the US may carry out a military attack on key Brent producer Iran that could disrupt supply from the region.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. We'll touch base with you once again just after 8:30, in which update, of course, Dowling will give you a sense of where we are likely to go in the markets on this Thursday.
SABC2 is stepping into a new era, Papa, where every moment tells a story. A new era of conversations with Enklik Let's Connect at 4:30 p.m, bringing real talk and South African voices. A new era of Afrikaans news at 6:30 p.m, trusted information in the language you love. A new era of family entertainment, Omar Sari at 7 p.m, celebrating humor, tradition and togetherness. A new era of excitement in a new time slot, Deal or No Deal at 7:30 p.m, bringing primetime thrills home. A new era of drama, Pimville at 9 p.m, a brand new powerful telenovela from Soweto that grips the heart, and a new era of flavor with a new season of Color Your Plate with Koo, Sundays at 7 p.m. A new era begins on SABC2.
What's with the camouflage, Dorf? I'm going hunting. Just me, nature, and my most underrated off-roader, a rental car. Hunting? You could fit that little car in your backpack, Dorf. I sit in the driver's seat, baggage at the back, chairs on the roof. The kudu is going to get in and strap its own seatbelt, Savvy. Could do with more legroom, Dorf. Go hunt for a new 4x4 at WeBuy Cars. They got great deals. Oh, shot, Savvy.
Don't be Dorf, be savvy. We buy cars geared for that big trip, geared for you.
So for over 60 years, African artists have performed at Montreux. Now Montreux comes to Africa. Say yes to Montreux Jazz Festival, Franschhoek, presented by Nedbank, a 3-day multi-genre celebration with 2 stages, African voices and unforgettable collaborations. From Salif Keita on the Archers to Madala Gunene and Sibusile Xaba in the Jazz Village. This is music with depth and connection. Tickets for the Archers stage are on sale now via ticketmaster.co.za. Say yes.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
15 minutes to 8, a legal showdown is now brewing between powerful agricultural organizations and the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, with the battle lines drawn over who gets to decide how the country fights foot-and-mouth disease. Sakelecha, the South African Agri Initiative, and Free State Agriculture have issued a formal letter of demand to Minister John Steenhuisen, insisting that farmers and the private sector must be allowed to procure and administer FMD vaccines without what they call unlawful state gatekeeping. The minister has responded to that letter, but the organizations are not impressed at all with that response. So to tell us why and what really is at the heart of this issue, I'm joined by Pete Leroux, who is Sakelecha CEO. Good morning to you, Pete, and thank you for your time. So what is this issue about? One would have thought, logically, without delving into Animal Diseases Act and the regulations and the likes, one would have thought the more vaccines, the better the chance. But it seems it's not that simple, is it?
No, I think it's very close actually to being that simple. At least given the what is considered to be a crisis, Minister Steenhuisen considers the situation so dire that he even wants to declare a national state of disaster. Now, what one does in an emergency, in a situation as dire as this, you allow farmers to implement the measures that they believe is necessary to protect what is a billions of rands of industry. And in this case, farmers and industry bodies have approached Sakelecha. We have dealt with government in other spheres of society where it also tried to impose itself or impose one-size-fits-all solutions. And what we are now demanding of Minister Steenhuisen is that he either states clearly whether he agrees or not with us that it's actually completely lawful for farmers and industry organizations, agribusinesses, to procure and administer vaccines themselves. They do this every day with other vaccines. Other animal diseases are kept under control in this way. We see no reason in law why farmers can't do this with foot and mouth disease, and that's what we've been putting to the minister.
Is it a question of legal uncertainty such that you're not really sure? Is there anything in the law, in the regulations, that suggests that the private procurement of vaccines by pharma organizations, farmers themselves, may be unlawful, such that you are seeking the minister to state it categorically that it is not unlawful?
We've looked far and wide for a basis in law for such a view, and it turns out that we couldn't find one. It seems that the impression is actually only in the minds of the Department of Agriculture and related entities of state who've created this impression that because it's a state-controlled disease, no one is allowed to do anything unless they have state permission. I'm slightly exaggerating for effect now, but this is basically it. Everything has to go through the Department of Agriculture. And it turns out that that isn't the case. And so when you go study law, we study the law, and we've considered counsel, we've considered our attorneys, we've looked far and wide, we see no reason in law why farmers and industry businesses, agribusinesses cannot administer and procure this themselves. So it seems to be a misimpression. Now, that's why we've sent this letter to Minister Steenhuisen. We said, we're giving you a chance to tell us where in law you see this right, apparently, that by which the department can prohibit people from solving their own problems. And so far, yesterday, you responded with a statement. I think it was on Tuesday. It was a bit emotional, and I don't think he's read our letter clearly. because we're saying if you are acting unlawfully, we will have to go to court and prevent you from acting unlawfully, preventing farmers from doing what they need to do. So he has two options. Either he can tell us the basis in law for his position, or he can just agree with us and then there will be no litigation.
So, in summary, a part of his response has been to express concern about the potential impact of any litigation around this issue, the diversion of veterinarians, officials, and funding to fighting a court case amidst this attempt to respond and, this frontline response to FMD. But importantly, he's also concerned about what's described as a quote-unquote vaccine free for all, that the concern is that it would undermine surveillance, traceability, and export credibility. Are these concerns completely invalid in your view?
Look, Minister Steenhuisen is trying to get the country declared foot and mouth free. What we're trying to prevent is a country being cattle free, because everything's died and the industry is decimated. And that's what farmers want to do. So we can either wait for a perfect government plan and the perfect government execution, which is going to be problematic because state vets don't even have petrol to put in the car and drive out to the farms. Or we can just be realistic and realize that it's a crisis, that farmers actually deal with diseases every day. Why is it not called a free-for-all when farmers just solve the other animal diseases every day through vaccination, medication, and other measures? So Minister Steenhuisen is creating a straw man here. We are saying that there's no impediment in law for farmers and agribusinesses to procure and administer vaccines. We're asking him to tell us where in law he finds a basis for an alternative view that there are impediments, and if he can't show us where, then he should step out of the way. Alternatively, he will face litigation.
You've given him until the close of business tomorrow, on Friday. The first response that is given, you don't like it, so it seems it amounts to no, try again. What if he doesn't come again with another response, or comes with a response that doesn't talk to that issue? What happens next?
Yeah, now it will become a question of law, whether he is properly responding or not. Just making press statements, not complying with the request in the letter, which is a perfectly reasonable demand. We're asking him to state his position in law with reference to the very legal documents. It's actually inexcusable if he doesn't do that by tomorrow, because he pretends to have a very strong basis in law and reasonability and so on. So just state that on paper, then we can deal with that. If he's reasonable, if he's correct, then we will accept what it is and we won't be attacking him. Maybe we'll be changing the act. We'll see about that. But right now, he is not confirming his position with reference to law. So that's the first step. If he doesn't do so, he will be exposing himself to the legal consequences of that. And that can either be relate to his personal failures, or it can relate to orders that we seek to get the department out of the way because they're acting unlawfully. The question currently is the department acting unlawfully or not? We have given him an opportunity to say otherwise or confirm.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Piet Leroux is the CEO of Sakeliga. There you have it. This legal conflict, this is from a dimension that I never would have imagined in all of our time covering the foot and mouth disease outbreak and the response across the country in the last few months.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top stories from the regions around the country. The R40 between Bushbuck Ridge and Hazeview blocked again this morning due to protesters. We'll just zoom in. It's between Marite and Bushbuck Ridge, so sort of halfway through between those areas. That's where the protesters are. At least a bus and a few trucks have been used to blockade that road. The protesters commandeer those vehicles, pull them across the road, nothing can get through. Travel later, Bushbuck Ridge, Hazeview for straight through R40 traffic. Joburg, the N3 South crash much earlier this morning down by London Road at Alex. That's having a big impact. If you're heading through Buccleuch interchange, you want to get flight connections to the airport using the N3. That's going to seriously hold you up from Buccleuch all the way down to Alex. It's a very heavy backlog. N1 coming out of Pretoria down through Midrand. Fairly standard traffic flows, busy but standard. Eskia and Perth Valley into the city centre via Marabastad. There's a big queue. It starts almost back at the Mopari Highway this morning. Raid across Durban. That means a crash on Fields Hill westbound going up the hill. Very slow as a result of that. Pinetown through to Kloof. Also coming from Hillcrest into Kloof and then down to Pinetown. Quite busy as well this morning. Earlier crash at Isipingo Prospectum by Joiner Road. N2 North coming off the south coast from Galleria Mall. Stays heavy. The R102 Andrew Zondo on the side there. Full of traffic diverting away from that N2 backlog. Cape Town heavy at Plumstead this morning. Prince George Drive coming up from Retreat and Grassy Park. Really big traffic going up to that Dick Burton Junction. N7 jamming both ways to Bosmansdam. Normal queues going northbound, perhaps a touch heavier, but it's that southbound queue through Plattercliff Road down towards Bosmansdam that's heavy. And the R300 still clogged as you come up from Delft towards that problematic Strand Road exit into Stickland. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Stellies are serious about winning on home soil. However, CRB want to celebrate victory on their flight back to Algeria. This is the CAF Confederation Cup. Stellenbosch FC versus CR Belouizdad this Sunday, 1 February at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's start with a call from Joe in Cape Town. Joe, good morning. You want to talk about that scenario that's playing itself out, that curious case of the Commander-in-Chief's orders not being kept by the commanded?
Yeah, I just want to talk about, the Iranian ships, actually,
Yes.
that Pacific issue.
I see. Not so sorry, Joe. I assumed you were talking Iranian ships. I thought you were talking about exercise will for peace. You're talking about the situation in the Gulf, are you?
Yeah, I want to talk about also the ships here that came into Africa.
Sure.
No, I'm very concerned how media has been so anti-Iran. And I want to ask the question, what has Iran done to us as a country? I mean, Iran supported our liberation. But it seems for some strange reason, because Donald Trump is hostile to Iran, we as a country now should follow the line and also be hostile towards Iran. I mean, I can't understand why there's this anti-Iran rhetoric in our media. I mean, Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens said, is the Zionists controlling, the American media. Maybe it's the same thing is happening here in South Africa. Do we have, certain interests here controlling our media that wants to demonize Iran as this terrible country? We don't even criticize Russia anymore. We're fine with Russia.
Joe? All right, I promise you that wasn't me. Joe? I don't know what happened there. And it's a pity. We'll see if we can get him back, because I was about to ask him to give specific examples of the manifestations of this demonizing of Iran that he's talking about in South African media. Let's see if we can try and get him back. In the meantime, in fact, I believe we have... Sorry, Joe, we lost you there for a moment. I was about to ask you to give examples of the manifestations of this anti-Iran bias or stance that you observe in South African media?
I mean, for the last few weeks, it's like, there's been complaints, there's been shows about why we're allowing Iran. Don't we remember that Iran belongs to BRICS?
Wait, Joe. Why are we allowing Iran in reference to the exercise will for peace?
Yeah.
The reason that story is being focused on is that the president had said that should not happen. So it's not been about Iran, it's been about the carrying out of a command from the commander-in-chief, at least from my perspective.
Okay, I understand that. The president is under pressure from Donald Trump and the United States with threats of tariffs and sanctions and all these things. But the thing is this, our media is almost like there's a demonization of Iran, it's this terrible, evil country. And I can remember Russia also faced the same thing, but now that Donald Trump is more friendly toward Russia, Now our mainstream media is almost like, okay, leave Russia now for a bit because Donald Trump is now chatting to Putin and meeting Putin. But when it comes to Iran, and I ask the question, what has Iran done towards us as South Africans? They supported our struggle. When this regime, so-called regime, as the media uses the word, for example, came to power, they stopped relations with the apartheid government.
All right.
So I ask the question, why is there this anti-Iran rhetoric in our mainstream media?
Joe, thank you for that. That's Joe in Cape Town. Let's see what other people have to say. Mandla, to be fair to you, I will not take your call now. Let's try and do it after the news, after 8, because we simply won't have enough time for you and I to engage. But what I can do is squeeze in a quick voice note about the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. The head of the investigation, Major General Thulasizwe Simelane, he's claiming that he didn't know about this ID numbers of the president, but he's the head of the investigation. And ask yourself, what do they want to him? And even if it was sent to him, for what good reason? Just to be sent to him. Fine enough, we didn't open it and check it, but why were they sent to him? Thank you.
Yeah, there was a lot of I can't remember. I can't recall. 8 a.m. Dineo Modaung on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money in your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Thanks to last top stories, Morero faces no confidence showdown in City Council and High Court set for Matlala and Associates pre-trial. A very good morning. The Johannesburg City Council will today debate a motion of no confidence in Mayor Dada Morero. The motion was brought by minority party Al Jamaa with the support of other minority parties who are calling for the vote to be conducted by a secret ballot. The parties have since written to ANC structures urging Morero to step down over ongoing service delivery failures. This comes amid factional battles within the party's regional leadership following the election of Loyiso Masuku as chairperson of the ANC Greater Johannesburg region. Wits School of Governance professor Alex van den Heever says the motion appears to be driven more by political factionism than service delivery concerns.
These parties voted for Dada Morero in June last year. So there was a no confidence vote and they were perfectly happy to support him. There's effectively, objectively, no real difference between service delivery then and now. So it suggests that this is not about service delivery. This is about probably patronage politics tied to the possibility of a new ANC chairperson taking control of the mayor's seat. That might be the driving force. That's not really a governance issue. That's really about a change in the face of what has been a pretty disastrous coalition government.
It has emerged that KwaZulu-Natal Hawks head General Thulasizwe Simelane leaked the confidential information of police officers to attempted murder-accused Vusumuzi Matlala. The leaked ID numbers were contained in an affidavit relating to an alleged Mozambican kidnapping kingpin Ishmael Nenge. This has been revealed at the Madlanga Commission, where Simelane continues with testimony. But Simelane has defended his actions, stating that he handed Matlala the affidavit to warn him about Nenge because they lived in the same estate in Pretoria. Sibahle Mota reports.
Commissioner Sandile Khumalo slammed General Simelane for compromising the identities of SAPS members. Some of the identities belong to the crime intelligence members. The leaked documents further contained the police stations where the members are based and their cell phone numbers. General Simelane, who has been at the commission for 2 days, has been accused of leaking sensitive information to Matlala. He has also been accused of using his position to benefit members of the Big Five cartel. Proceedings begin at 9:30 a.m. I am Sibahle Mota in Pretoria.
Meanwhile, the pre-trial hearing of controversial businessman Vusmusiket Matlala, together with his 4 accused, is expected to commence this morning at the High Court in Johannesburg. Matlala is facing 11 counts of attempted murder along with a string of other charges. The charges relate to failed assassination attempts on his former girlfriend Tebogo Tobejane, businessman Josie Banyoni, and music producer Sienki Mukobung, commonly known as DJ Vetis. Sasha Naidu reports.
After spending several months behind the bars, Matlala, together with his co-accused, will make their first appearance at the High Court this morning. This comes after the state managed to centralize all 3 cases against him. These include the attempted hit on Josie Banyoni in 2022, the attempted murder of Tebogo Tobejane in 2023, and the botched hit on DJ Vetis in 2024. It's still unclear at this stage if Matlala will be appearing in court in person after being transferred to the Kokstad Super C Max Prison. Sasha Naidu, SABC News, Johannesburg.
In other news, Acting Police Minister Firoz Kachalia has announced the permanent deployment of armoured police vehicles and officers at the Sporong informal settlement near Randfontein on Gauteng's West Rand. Kachalia visited the area yesterday and said the move is to ensure the safety of residents. The minister was accompanied by Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi and National Commissioner Fani Masemola. Hundreds of families had fled their homes and sought refuge at the local hall, fearing illegal minors who they said were threatening and harassing them at their homes. The minister's spokesperson is Kamogelo Mogoti.
During the Premier's previous visit, short-term measures were implemented to stabilize the area. These included the deployment of nyalas and additional police officers to ensure the safety and security of residents. As part of longer-term interventions, nyalas and SAPS members will now be deployed on a permanent basis. In recognition of the community's vulnerability, night patrols will also be conducted by SAPS members in collaboration with local community patrollers.
Lastly, as education authorities work to finalize outstanding learner placements in Gauteng, the impact of delays is increasingly being felt by learners. Some learners report that repeated visits to district offices have yielded little progress, leaving them anxious as teaching and learning continue without. The Gauteng Department of Education says it has placed more than 95% of grade 1 and grade 8 learners, but capacity constraints continue to affect high-pressure districts, including Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni. Learner Nzawulo Nkwashu remains hopeful of securing placement closer to home.
I feel sad and lonely and disappointed because the government doesn't help us. It's the 4th time coming here. They tell us the same thing each and every day. So it makes me feel like lonely and but I feel better when I see people around here. So I have hope that I'll get school near me.
Recapping the top story at 8, the Johannesburg City Council will today debate a motion of no confidence in Mayor Dada Morero. Headlines at 8:30 for SFM News. I'm Dino Matau.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Wondering why 45-year-old Nivan has such a big smile lately?
Outsurance. Save me so much money. 461 Rand.
That's right. With Outsurance, Nivan saves an amazing 461 Rand a month on his 2025 VWT Cross. And after 3 claim-free years, he gets an out bonus.
So much money.
How much money could Outsurance save you? Get a quote now. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports Headlines, rugby, the Stormers are looking for a quick response in Durban. Assistant coach Rito Shlongwane says work rate will be decisive when they take on the Sharks. And in Australian Open tennis action, South Africa's KG Montjane, she battles through pain and she's into the quarterfinals. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still very heavy coming into Pretoria. Eskia and Pathlele Drive coming off the mighty Montbody Highway jammed all the way down into Marabastad territory this morning. Also, if you're coming out of Montana, Sefaga Makato backed heavily towards the N1 highway. Joburg, the N3 South, that crash we've been detailing at London Road in front of Alex, causing a delay right back to Buccleuch. If you're on your way through Buccleuch, coming off those other highways, you want to get down to the airport using the N3, make sure you've got a ton of time to get through that trip. Durban, a crash on Fields Hill going up towards Kloof. Coming out of Pinetown very slow, always slippery when wet, and it's claimed another victim at wet Fields Hill this morning. So heading to Kloof is busy. But coming from Hillcrest down Fields Hill into Pinetown, also pretty slow as well. Truck crash on the M7 at Belleville Road, Bluff bound, heavy. Crash on the N2 North near Joyner Road. The traffic coming out from Galleria Mall out of the Toti area on your way to Durban through Prospect, and very slow going as well. Cape Town N2 jamming both ways through Somerset West. That looks quite heavy. R300 North is a problem up towards the Strand Road exit for a turn into Stickland, and heavy traffic both ways this morning on the N7 south from Dunoon side, north from Goodwood. Problems getting into that Bosmansdam Road off ramp. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8. It's coming up to 10 minutes after 8. Welcome to it, the third hour of the Morning Brief on SAFM 104 to 107. Let me quickly read one or two of your messages. The theme around geographic name changes really dominates in the conversation, but so does the whole conversation about what has happened at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, the testimony of Major General Lesetja Sinona. You just need to watch it. Just need to watch it for yourself. Dedicate some time, put it in the background, let it play and listen. Even if it's over the weekend, I promise you, you will ask yourself many, many questions about how it is that this person is at the helm of the Hawks in KwaZulu-Natal. You'll be left with 1,000,001 questions when you hear the concessions. The way that the concessions come, they don't come easy. I've been saying that it's like it's the equivalent of mining out a ton of ore to just get an ounce of truth. So it's the equivalent of that in the way that the evidence leader as well as the commissioners have had to come back to him to say, but what you are saying is improbable. It just doesn't, on many occasions. And then eventually you get that, now I recall. Now that I'm being reminded, it's good to concede when you've been reminded. So it really is shocking testimony. Let's see where it goes today. Let me read one or two of the messages then. Let me start with the ones to do with name changes. Lynn in Pretoria says, I'm so glad that they are renaming all the colonized names in South Africa. With the condition that all these places have deteriorated too, the names will suit the dilapidation, says Lynn in Pretoria. There's a lot said there in that message, Lynn, but I will not engage with that. What I do want to engage is an aspect that says sometimes these names are given iconic names of people we hold in high regard. Hospitals, for example, and then the service that is delivered there doesn't live up to that name. I've always wondered about that, that disconnect. You owe it to the person after whom you name a place to really live up to that name, the gallantry and the iconic nature and stature of the person that you name a place after. And then someone else here, MK in Durban, says, why are we ignoring the real issues here? Illegal immigration, developing rural KZN, and creating jobs. What's the point? KZN has just changed vehicle number plates and will again change car registration plates from ZN to what? KZ? What's the point? KZN has so many rich Indians exploiting our black fellow pupils, okay? Says MK there in Durban. Let me go to this one from... this person says, names should have been changed when we took over government. However, we as black people are always making excuses about making white people uncomfortable. Change the names along with making our country better. We can do both. Azie. And this person says, I am from KwaZulu. Let me read one or two then about General Sinona. Vincent Nkwahatse from Hamasemola in Limpopo says, I think investigations should also be made into Major General Sinona, into his promotion up to that position. Secondly, the chap belongs where his friend/brother is now, in reference to that testimony. And then lastly, Daniel says, remember, John Steenhuisen has a matric certificate. He is still learning on the job. Ouch. That's a bit harsh there, Daniel, in reference to that debate about vaccinations with those agricultural farmer organizations that we were talking to a bit earlier on. Let's keep the conversation going. Call me 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The third hour of the morning brief on this Thursday starts now.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. MS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T&Cs online. Standard rates apply.
At Dis-Chem, get ready to start the year strong with bigger savings and better rewards. Swipe your Better Rewards card to save a massive 165 Rand on Pampers Premium Care Nappies. Now just 424 Rand 79. And get a massive 30% off Johnson's Baby Wipes. Look out for the Better Rewards icon to get an extra 10% off on Better Rewards brands. Offers valid from Tuesday 13 January to Sunday 15 February. Only at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Hello, January. You feel different to December. December was nice, wasn't it? January is strange like that. Because as much as December was easy, January is hard. Giving things up, getting fit, looking ahead, making plans, changing plans. And 11 months later, it's December again. And on it goes. Year after year after year. The thing is, December is how you should feel when you retire. And all the time you spend getting there should make it worth it. That's why, after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do the things you want to do. Like turning your Januaries into Decembers. Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Sorry I'm late, Sevi. Had to fetch my lucky putter. No worries, let's go. We're teeing off in an hour. Great. We're taking your car. Can't. It's already taken. What do you mean taken? It was right here when I left a few minutes ago. I sold it to WeBuy Cars and made a whole lot of green. Birdie told me that's the best way to sell your car. Not only the best way, it's the fair way. Kom ons vat die pad.
Don't be doof, be savvy. We buy cars geared for a fast sale, geared for you.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take a call from Mandla in Boksburg. You see, Mandla, I'm campaigning way before I'm on any ballot paper. Don't forget what I promised you, and then I came back to deliver on my promise. Good morning.
I come bearing gifts to Thulasizwe.
Yes.
You Amguni. So that cold drink thingy, I know if I address you as Mguni, I have an hour. I have an hour. Thulasizwe, sure. This thing of name changes. You know the way you put it when you introduced it. East London, which is not in the east of a London that is in Europe. it shows the value that must be attached to it. Restoration of dignity post-colonization. What blights it is that it tends to happen in a way where you give the dignity through name changes. You're taking it away from the people of Sebokeng. The flow of Shua is their daily lived experience. They may not appreciate changing the name as giving them anything if the conditions are like that. That is the first thing. The second thing is, I think Professor Gumede did try to. He was very measured in how he was presenting this thing. It tends to come at a time where people think politicians need something in return. So it loses again the value. It's almost like, you are giving candy to a child so that you leave them when you go to town. They don't come with you and they don't cry. They don't get the bigger thing, but they are left believing that there is something in hand that you have given them.
Yeah.
My last point, Thulasizwe, if you can, there's this thing of Burkina Faso and Captain Traore.
Yes.
If Advocate Mantula can come, maybe tell us where they are now, the Burkinabes, when now that Traore is in charge compared to where they were when he took over.
Yeah.
Because there is a discussion to be had about leadership.
Yeah.
If you like.
Yeah, it's one of those stories we've grappled with when Amandla, and I'm really keen on that story. I've got a heart for Burkina Faso. I think it's born out of that time of Thomas Sankara and just the revolutionary changes that were happening at that time. Just the sense of leadership of Thomas Sankara and his philosophies. So I've had a soft spot for it, but it's just been difficult to get an authoritative voice that is close to the developments in that country. But the suggestion you make about Sipho Mantula is really a good one. So I will engage him so that, he delves deeper, and then perhaps we can lift the conversation. Mandla, you see, you didn't have to give me the cold drink there and calling me Mkulu. Mandla in Boxback, thank you for your call. In fact, let me take one voice note about the conversation we had earlier on with Professor William Gumede.
Mr. Simelane, this is Musa from Katuguza in KwaZulu province. I am hugely disappointed in Prof. Gumede. Of course, he's entitled to his opinion and his views. However, he said nothing about correcting historical wrongs and removing offensive identities. We cannot be carrying the colonial baggage with us moving into the future. I thank you, Makujwa.
Hi, morning to Thulasizwe. Interesting discussion with Professor Gumede, a very intelligent and wise man. But just my cynical point, it's an election year, so the ANC is trying to win votes again by changing names and being populist. Thanks very much. Charlie, Durban.
Charlie, thank you. I take the point you're making, but I wonder if that still holds sway in any electoral cycle. So you change the name from East London to Gukompo. I'm trying to grapple with, is that really something that's still foremost in the minds? Yeah, there'll be one or two people that will think that matters most. But I think with the lived realities at local government, I think you're going to have to do far much more than that. I take that point about populism, but I'm not sure this is the issue that wins you, that gives you a great return at the ballot. All right, I'll take your calls and WhatsApp voice notes, more of them a bit later on.
The rivalry between the Proteas and the Windies hits the rooftop this summer as they both chase a crucial victory in the second T20 international encounter. Be part of it. South Africa versus West Indies on Thursday, 29 January at 5:30 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC2 with reports on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to The Morning Brief
with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Let's talk mining. The 2026 Investing in Africa and African Mining Indaba will open in Cape Town in the next 2 weeks at a moment of real strain in the industry and real consequence for the country's mining sector as industry leaders gather under the theme Stronger Together, Progress Through Partnerships. The backdrop includes the growing threat of illegal mining, now spilling into open crisis in places like Randfontein, we saw in the last few days, but also recently in Stilfontein, with visible impacts on safety, livelihoods, and social cohesion. Let's speak to Colin Dlamini, Head of Public Affairs at Mining Indaba. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So this really is the ideal solutions workshopping platform, isn't it, around issues to do with the mining industry as a whole, but perhaps this aspect that has to do with illegal mining.
Good morning to listeners and your listeners. Thank you very much for having us on your show. Yes, indeed, it is. The Mining Endeavor is the right platform to discuss these issues and find solutions. As the leading investment mining conference, we are dedicated to advancing sustainable mining development across the continent. So certainly we are quite pleased that the leaders in various sectors of the ecosystem are coming together to find solutions on how we can tackle the growing prevalence of illegal and unregulated mining.
What's the conversation within industry about the impacts of illegal mining, socio-economic, social, as well as environmental, and impacts that have to do with sustainability?
Well, in this case, it will be an illegal mining compact that will be signed by the mining industry and the traditional leadership. And the focus really is on the role that traditional leadership in the rural mining communities can play to ensure that they advance artisanal and small-scale mining, but also how do we tackle the persistent illegal and unregulated mining activities in the rural areas. As we know, as Africans, traditional and community leaders, they are the ones that have the community trust and the legitimacy to really start being part of the solution and not just leave it to government or the South African Police Service or the Department of Minerals to tackle, but they're saying they are tired of sitting on the sidelines. They want to be part of the solution and find a way on how we can tackle this issue. And it speaks to our theme this year, which is Progress Through Partnerships, Stronger Together. So we are really pleased that we have everyone in the ecosystem putting shoulder to the wheel on this important issue.
And I believe an illegal mining compact is on the table. What's that about, and how does it relate to structures of ownership and alternative livelihoods in the mining sector?
Well, the illegal mining compact is the beginning. It's the start of having these conversations and finding practical ways to deal with this issue. As you know, illegal mining is the gateway to so many social ills such as gender-based violence, a lot of criminality, substance abuse. And the Southern Africa Network of Traditional Leaders and Drug Demand Reduction is leading the conversation, supported by the African Union Commission. And there will be other traditional leaders from Zambia, as well as Madagascar and Lesotho, who will also be part of this compact. And it will also include other players such as government and the mining houses. So the compact is, I will not let the cat out of the bag yet into the full details of it, as they will be hosting a media briefing on the 10th at Mining Indaba. So you will get all of those details when they unpack it themselves.
Yeah. Lastly, Colin, this conversation about regulated artisanal mining as an alternative pathway for continued economic engagement for people who know nothing other than mining in a context where perhaps mining is on the decline in some towns and areas. it's been on the table for quite some time. Any movement at all towards that end point where we have regulated artisanal mining that is not equal to the chaos that we see from time to time?
There is some movement on the policy front where the Department of Minerals and Petroleum have published a draft policy document for public comment. There's also been a lot of engagements and consultations within the industry. But from also the traditional leaders and community perspective, they see artisanal and small-scale mining as an avenue when, if it can be formalized and properly managed, it can produce an opportunity to transform this illegal mining into safe, lawful, and economically productive activity, which can create a lot of employment and reduce the social ills that I've mentioned. So definitely this is an alternative. And if you look at a lot of these mines, when their life comes to an end, this is when you start to see a lot of the zamazamas trying to dig for the spreads that have been left by the big mines. But if there could be a properly structured way of bringing the communities on board, working with the big mines on how they can start to train the small-scale mining and create employment, this could definitely be a solution. And we would like to see also, because we are a Pan-African platform, other jurisdictions sharing how they have got it right, because there are countries that have managed to get it right, and we can learn from it also in South Africa.
All right, thank you for your time this morning. That's Colin Dlamini, Head of Public Affairs at Mining Indaba, just talking about some of the issues that will be grappled with at the 2026 Investing in African Mining Indaba, which will be held in Cape Town in the next 2 weeks. 8:30, Dineo Motaung on standby with the latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Thulas. A very good morning. Let's take a look at the headlines at 8:30. Opposition party Action SA is calling for the next South African Revenue Service Commissioner to be appointed from within the organisation. In other news, the Johannesburg City Council will today debate a motion of no confidence in Mayor Dada Morero, and Colombia's aviation authorities say there are no survivors from a commercial flight which crashed near the Venezuelan border. The plane was carrying 15 people. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a busy Thursday coming into Pretoria. All morning we've been tracking delays on SKM Patlali from Vanderhof all the way down into Marabastad. Absolutely jam-packed through there. The highway between Pretoria and Joburg easing up remarkably quickly this morning. Even that run through Midrand looking a lot better than what you might be expecting. Crash on the M1 North before William Mandela, so coming from Randburg, that's busy. Also collision on Beyers Nordia near Moncor. That's on the Cresta side of the N1. So at around Park Ridge, Beyers Nordia heading to Cresta stays quite heavily backed up. A lot of traffic into Sandton this morning, including no lights, Rivonia and South Road. So all very heavy in that part of Morningside. Durban, now, if you're going from the south coast through for the flight connections to the airport, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. There's a crash at Prospecton. There's a breakdown after Spaghetti Junction. And there's a crash by Komashu Highway. That's 3 queues to work through at this stage. Cape Town, collision, N1 at Okavango Road. It's on the outbound side, but inbound also being held up. So heavy traffic both ways there between Belleville and Kraaifontein. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. So the Stormers, you said a few days ago the Stormers were not storming, but you're now telling us that they've set a work rate standard for their Sharks rematch in Durban.
Yes, Thulas, a very high work rate standard in Durban. Very brave. But yeah, let's go to their coach, and he is talking about how much that standard is a non-negotiable, especially when they went down to the Sharks. Now, they look forward to taking on the Sharks again in Durban this weekend. The assistant coach, Rito Shlongwane, insists there will be no shortcuts in this derby rugby. He says it's a non-negotiable as they look forward to the high standards and to respond well at Kings Park.
Yeah, it's always good to have, we challenge our guys to have a high work rate. one of the core sort of points of a loose forward. What we look at in our loose trios, they need to have a high work rate. So something we really try to work hard at.
Let's go to soccer. Kaizer Chiefs co-coach Cedric Kaze says last night's 1-0 victory over Maruma Gallants was secured under extremely challenging conditions with the poor state of the pitch at the Dr. Petrus Molamela Stadium.
It's a big win away from home on a very difficult field, and but we didn't want to complain about the field or to feel sorry for ourselves. We are a big team. We need to play in every conditions that we find ourselves in, and I would say that it's a big win. What I saw today, I'm not quite sure that there is a lot of teams that are gonna win in this on the field.
Let's go to tennis action from the Australian Open. South Africa's KG Montjane is through to the quarterfinals in the wheelchair category. Despite battling injury and extreme heat in Melbourne, Montjane beat Colombia's Angelica Bernal 7-5, 6-4 in windy conditions. Let's go now to more tennis action. The world number 2 Iga Swiatek has backed Coco Gauff's concerns over player privacy at tournaments. Gauff raised the issue after footage of her racket smashing frustration at the Australian Open went viral, saying players need more private spaces away from the cameras. In the meantime, Novak Djokovic has echoed those concerns, warning that the growing demand for constant access could make conditions tougher for players, even as sport continues to chase entertainment value. And finally, EFC news. Cape Town will host the inaugural EFC Knox Legacy Series on the 26th of February, showcasing South Africa's top MMA talent against international opposition. The card is headlined by middleweight champion Luke Michael against DR Congo's Diego Bandu, with UFC star Dricus du Plessis in Michael's corner. That's your sport. We'll have more with John Herika. He'll be back in the cage around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Darling, good morning to you once again. So I see the for sale sign has gone up for Vugile's Spanish retail park.
Mm-hmm. That's right, Thulas. So the property fund is cashing in on its Spanish retail park investment, agreeing to sell the portfolio for about 5.3 billion rands as it shifts its capital toward higher growth shopping centers across the country, Spain that is. Now, the exit executed via its Spanish subsidiary, Castellana Properties, follows years of active asset management that lifted income and valuations. Strong investor demand for retail parks combined with limited new development has created an attractive window to sell, management said. And the 9-asset portfolio will be acquired by a buyer backed by U.S. investment group Ares Management. Castellana, in the meantime, will continue managing the properties under a 5-year mandate, ensuring ongoing fee income. Vugile plans to reinvest the proceeds into shopping center assets already in its pipeline, where supply constraints and tenant demand offer stronger long-term growth potential.
And as far as the retail sector is concerned, it would seem Mr. Price was the December boss.
December was a good month for the retailer. Thulas delivered a welcome boost for the company, with festive season sales jumping nearly 6% and outpacing the broader retail market. Now, the strong finish helped lift third quarter retail sales by 3.6% to just over 15 billion rands. Sales momentum accelerated in the final 6 weeks of the quarter, driven by continued market share gains in the country. Now, local sales rose 3.9%, while growth outside the country remained modest. Online sales also gained traction in December, while cash purchases continued to dominate, making up more than 90% of total sales. Apparel led performance, delivering record December market share, with Studio 88 and the telecoms business standing out. Homeware and Yapishef also recorded solid gains. But despite the strong trading update to us, investor sentiment remains cautious when it comes to Mr. Price as the market weighs the group's proposed 9.7 billion rand acquisition of European retailer NKD.
So you've scanned and scoured these markets for us over the last 3 hours and given us useful insights. Tell us then, Ndauling, where will money be made or lost today?
Money will most likely still be made in gold, but hey, I am not a professional, right?
Yes.
But from the trends we are seeing, mine is still going to benefit from the gold rally. The last time I checked, the yellow metal was up 5%. Company news, though, starting to filter through with an update from Woolies, Sibanye, and Exaro. Local investors also eyeing the SARB's meeting with a rate decision due this afternoon. So really a busy day ahead. Looking at currencies, the rand still trading firmer at 15.67 to the dollar, at 21.70 to the pound, and 18.79 to the euro. Oil also trading stronger this morning on increasing concerns that Washington may carry out a military attack on Iran. That, of course, would disrupt supply from the nation. And so crude is at $67 a barrel. Back to equities, monetary policy and tech earnings keeping investors busy, with traders assessing earnings from Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla. US futures mostly in the green this hour. Lastly, in Asia, stocks rebounding and now trading in positive territory.
Ndauling, thank you for today. Let's talk again tomorrow. Ndauling Lichela, having updated you on business, economics, and the markets, always right on the money here on The Morning Brief.
Get Barter school shoes at Spar for 75 Rand when you spend 350 Rand or more and swipe your rewards card. Buy 850-gram Parmalat pre-packed cheese for 124.99 plus 300 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 400-gram Parmalat or Melrose cheese slices for 59.99 plus 150 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Price is valid from 20 Jan till 8 Feb while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
Stellies are serious about winning on home soil. However, CRB want to celebrate victory on their flight back to Algeria. This is the CAF Confederation Cup. Stellenbosch FC versus CR Belouizdad this Sunday, 1 February at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC 2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Building the future of human settlements, smarter and stronger. Join the human settlements team, government and industry leaders, innovators and visionaries at the Innovative Building Technology Summit, where cutting-edge solutions drive sustainable, inclusive and resilient human settlements. From smart materials to advanced construction methods, this is where tomorrow's built environment takes shape. The date, the 3rd to the 4th of February 2026, and it's happening at Nasrec Expo Center in Johannesburg. For more information, please send an email to ibt.summit@dhs.gov.za or visit dhs.gov.za or dhs.ibtsummit.co.za.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So a new report by the Zero Dropout campaign warns that the country's efforts to reduce school dropouts will continue to fall short unless psychosocial well-being is treated as a core pillar of the education system. Despite record-breaking matric pass rates, nearly 40% of learners who start school in grade 1 still exit before completing grade 12. And there are various reasons that are cited there, some of which are covered in this latest report. In fact, the report is called School Dropout Hanging by a Thread. It argues that that dropout is not a sudden or individual choice, but the predictable outcome of long-term unmet psychosocial needs that intensify during adolescence. Let's speak to Mel Mansfield, who is Program Director at Zero Dropout Campaign, who joins us now. Good morning to you, Mel, and thank you for your time. Fascinating report in the manner that it centers the issues of psychosocial well-being as one of the factors. Is it one of the factors, the main factor accounting for the dropouts that we see, especially from grade 10 to grade 12?
Good morning, Tula, and good morning to your listeners. Thank you for having us. We believe that psychosocial support is the safety net and the protective factors that we need to put in place to be able to help us navigate all of the factors that actually pull and push learners from school. We see it every day in the research that we do and the learners that we speak to. No one wakes up one morning and decides, I'm not going back to school. It's actually a long process of many factors acting on a learner. Struggling in school, repeating, a household that is unstable, food insecurity, suffering from trauma, experiencing violence, bullying, pregnancy, being exposed to substances. Many of these factors acting on some of our learners at the same time over many years, and they struggle and they hold on to school and they come back every time. And we are not doing enough to put the protective factors in place like psychosocial support to help them to hold that grip in school and to stay anchored in school. And so when they get to grade 10, it's that final straw that breaks the camel's back. Many learners have then, by that time, experienced so much of these factors that by then they really struggle to come back at the end, and that's where they disengage completely and drop out of school.
So put simply then, Mel, these young people are dealing with a lot, and our system as it is right now is not geared to helping them deal with that. Talk to me about what's currently available by way of psychosocial support against all these socioeconomic and environmental factors that you just listed.
I think that it is incredibly important for us to realize that, the burden of the stresses that are acting on learners is massive, and that the support we need to put in place cannot just be crisis intervention. At the moment, that is what we have. So when there's an incident or when something happens and it escalates to the place where we need to intervene, we have crisis support. But we have nothing in the beginning to build in things like, how do I learn how to self-regulate? How do I learn how to make good decision making? How do I learn to navigate conflict? How do I learn to express my emotions in a way that helps me to access support or information? Where is those environments? There aren't many enabling environments because the environments are so stressed and the resources are so limited. So if I can make an example, we have one social worker for every 23,000 learners. There are 12 million learners within our school system. And at any given time, about 30% of them will be dealing with some kind of psychosocial crisis or issue that they will need to navigate. And we know this. We see this in our trends of our schooling system. We know this based on all the research and reports that we have, but we haven't functionally put in place referral systems, enough support on the ground. Is there a mentor? Is there a coach that a child can talk to? Are parents able to access resources when they need to get an educational assessment, for example? All of these issues are compounded and they the impact of it accumulates over time for these learners. And so the safety net is very, very thin. And that is why this report is called Hanging by a Thread, because we know that these kids are really, balancing on that thin line every day.
What about the other programs? You talk about one social worker for about 23,000 learners, one per 23,000 learners. That really is a really shockingly low rate of availability. But we understand there are other programs, ISHP, National Mental Health Policy, the Safe Schools Protocol. How are they doing?
I want to commend the Department of Basic Education for having those policies and protocols in place. We have a beautiful CS, protocol. There is the care and support for teaching and learning. All of these policies that exist that acknowledge these issues and that are, legislating for what needs to happen. The difficulty is bridging the gap between what we ideally want to see and what is happening on the ground. So imagine a school where there's 1,000 learners within a school system having to access these programs and protocols, and where it is strained already. So we see that these things can take years to get into place if it functionally goes through the system. So I remember there was a little boy that I met in Paul where they told me he was on the verge of dropping out because they couldn't understand why he was struggling in school. It turns out, he couldn't get an assessment. He was on the list for, getting assessed. And there was a peer mentor that was working with him from one of the organizations that works in that area, Cooler Development Group. And very luckily they were there because they then assessed that actually this boy has a problem with his eyes. And he had already been struggling in school for, I think, about 4 years. He was, they had to go and get him from home. He didn't want to come to school anymore. And as soon as this little boy got glasses, he did so much better in school. He could see. Wow. And so some of these issues are, critically for me, it's like we're just not getting to kids in time. So it's not that we don't have programs, policies, and protocols. I think that just bridging the gap between getting that access, that resource to the child in time is where the problem comes in. And many of our civil society organizations are standing in the gap and they're doing a lot of this work, but it's just not enough. And we need to be more strategic to get it, to get to 12 million learners in time.
All right. Thank you for those perspectives. Really fascinating perspective there from Mel Mansfield, who is Program Director for Zero Dropout Campaign.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very busy in Durban. I'll get there just in a minute. I want to just bring you up to speed with a crash coming into Joburg this morning. It's on the Beyers-Naudé option, just through into the Fairland area. So if you just start coming through Rampark Ridge, that's the problem. Also very heavy into Sandton this morning. Thursday can be. You got traffic queuing both sides. Rivonia and South Morningside, those lights are down. And then you got a really big backlog, Peter Place onto William Mandela, all the way down to the Sandton Drive junction. Behind that, Republic Road, heavily backed up as well. The N1 between Pretoria and Joburg looks remarkable down through Midrand, so there's a bit of a result if you're travelling this hour, part of the closer to 9 o'clock gang. It's a good clear route, which you don't get to say very often. Now, Durban, crash scene, N2 North at Kormarshu Highway, so very heavy traffic on the way to the airport, backlogging from a roundabout sort of just after Inanda Road. It gets really badly backed up into that. Earlier crash just north of Spaghetti Junction is cleared, and the earlier crash at Prospecton is also now out of the way, and that traffic's been released. Fields Hill is the other problem. A crash coming down the hill through Kloof up by Pioneer Road. That's causing a delay, and a crash going towards Fields Hill through Pinetown on the M13 approaching Richmond Road. So from Stapleton Road, that all gets very heavily backed up as well. Cape Town, if you're coming in from Grassy Park or Retreat side, just steel yourself for a big queue going up to Dick Burton in the Plumstead area. The N1 inbound heavy from Plattekloof Hill through to the city centre. That looks to be a busy run through. And the R300 is queuing up to the N1 outbound. That's due to a crash on the N1 at Okavango Road on the Paarl direction side. So quite heavy in that part of Cape Town. Everybody coming in on the N1 having a look. So from Kryfontein to Brackenfell, some delays as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Whites are convinced that with top-class football, they will all smile on the field.
Cross up towards Calvert-Lewin! Yeah! Dominic Calvert-Lewin! Terrific finish at the far post, but what a cross from Nonto! Calvert-Lewin in place to do the rest.
On the other side, the Gunners of London believe it's time to show real character.
Saka plays another one in. There's the header! And there's the goal! And Gabriel Jesus is off the bench, and has he won it?
This is the Premier League. Experience Leeds United versus Arsenal FC on Saturday 31 January at 4:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Outsurance is saving 27-year-old Liam big bucks on his car insurance.
Saving so much every month, around 640 Rand.
That's an awesome 640 Rand saving on Liam's 2020 Ford Ranger. And after 3 claim-free years, he gets an out bonus.
Definitely getting a lot out.
Get a quote now and see how much money Outsurance could save you. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
For over 60 years, African artists have performed at Montreux. Now, Montreux comes to Africa. Say yes to Montreux Jazz Festival Franschhoek, presented by Nedbank, a 3-day multi-genre celebration with 2 stages, African voices and unforgettable collaborations. From Salif Keita on the Archers to Madala Gunene and Sibusile Xaba in the Jazz Village. This is music with depth and connection. Tickets for the Archers stage are on sale now via ticketmaster.co.za. Say yes.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's wade through your calls and voice notes as rapidly and as swiftly as we possibly can.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. The Major General has been an embarrassment to our country, but the perfect specimen and example of affirmative action and cadre deployment. Clearly, he's not there on merit.
Morning, Thulas. Hey, I watched my Langa commission ever since it started. It was the first time for me to hear the witness requesting a protection from the chairperson.
Protect me from yourself.
Advocate Hasim was just grilling the guy. Then he said, no, protection, chairperson.
Yeah, he says, protect me from yourself, chairperson. That's what he had. In fact, at some point, he said, I'm being crucified here. Sydney, also on the same point. Good morning to you, Sydney in Cape Town.
Hi, Thulas. How are you?
Good, how are you? Please
Good.
go ahead.
Thulas, yes, thank
Yeah.
you so much. It's so sad when you look and listen to what is transpiring at Madlaga Commission. The country is in hostage,
Yeah.
if I may put it that way.
Mm.
It's so embarrassing.
Mm.
And you know, you could read the body language, even the answers of that general. That guy supposed now to be charged. And we can't have people heading crucial institutions like hawks that needs to protect the country, its citizens. And it's just like, and you know what irritates me? On his remembering thing, it's selective.
Mm-hmm.
It suits him. He said, okay, I can remember now. But when the commissioners pushes him further, he will say, I can't remember.
Yep.
That guy is blunt and lying.
He
It's
can't
a lie.
remember. His phone had a problem, so he doesn't have those messages,
And
doesn't have reference to those.
I mean, you getting an attachment on your phone. you want to tell me you have a meeting with a person who sent that attachment, you don't even know, man, guys. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
This country, if you look at now, if there is no change, this country is going to collapse.
Yeah.
We are in hostage, Budi. I'm telling you.
Sydney, thank you for that. It would be funny just watching it all if it wasn't so serious in terms of the consequences for us as a country if you have that kind of leadership, right? Let me take 1 or 2 voice notes about name changes and then I'll turn to Max in Velcom in a moment.
Good morning, Thulas. Yes, I agree with you. Change the names. I have no problem with the name changing. I just feel sorry for the people whose names they are using, because it's country's not living up to those names, for what those people stood for the struggle and all
Right.
that, and then the state of the country. I don't know if they'd be very proud with the fact.
Yeah.
That's my take on the
Yeah,
name
think
change.
about it when you call Graf Renet Robert Sobukwe town. What do you owe Sobukwe's legacy in terms of how you govern that town, the services you deliver to those people, so that, they can proudly walk around and say, I'm from Robert Sobukwe town?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, Tion Cape Town. Thulasizwe, about changing name, I will suggest that the KwaZulu Natal must change to KwaZulu Natal. You see, it could be much better because it's not only Zulu, it's also Mandia. KwaZulu Natal could be a good name. What do you think? Let me know, because it's a good change. You must also accommodate everyone. So that's my input. Thank you.
Trevor Noah had a joke like that some years ago. I'm chuckling because I suppose what we want to do is an all-inclusive name that captures everyone in it, right? Because now the other risk is to hark back to what we were saying earlier on, balkanization, Xhosa land, Mpondo land, KwaZulu, etc. That, in terms of our democratic project, is perhaps, not really where we want to go, where the identity, ethnic identity, is what then determines the name of the place and perhaps the experience of the country that you will have in that place. You saw the incident, for example, the concerning incident that occurred with the KZN police spokesperson, Robert Nechiwunda. That's the kind of dangerous subtext that we made a choice consciously years ago to shift from and say, this is not who we are. I should be at home in KZN just as I'm at home in the Eastern Cape and in the Western Cape and Limpopo and all the other provinces. Max and Welcome, good morning. Welcome. Sorry, I won't say it. No, I won't say it. I wanted to say, what do they say when you get to your town? Welcome, na welcome, but it's okay. Let me not do it.
Now that's welcome and welcome.
Yeah.
Muguni, thank you very much for taking my call. Yeah, you can't help but marvel on the planning and the execution of the strategy of Senior Counsel Adila Hassin. I think she's spot on. I think she's planned this questioning of
right?
Nona.
Yeah.
And I think she's executing very well. I'm on the names. Mguni, one of the sons of the soil who were never recognized for some time now, for our 30 years, was Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. So on the names, I think today I'll just take the happiness that I have.
Yeah.
That Gafinet, where he was born, is now being renamed Robert Sobukwe Town. I think it's about time that we don't become partisan and only recognize certain political party leaders.
Yes.
But we try to be wholesale and recognize the contribution the person has made, but not from where he came. But I'm so happy about the name change.
Okay.
But the name changes must happen because it's us. You see, we were giving names that were never us.
Yeah.
That were never saying anything about us. That were not from us. So we cannot sit with those names. Never mind whatever the deliveries and all these things. We can address those things, but the names have to change.
All right, Max. You very quickly, what I would love to see? Names that honor our heroes beyond politics. Newtown in Johannesburg has a sense of that. Abontemi Piliso, Miriam Makeba Street, etc. I think we need to move in that direction, and I think I've said
we
it
had
before.
a broad spectrum of leaders, and
not
all
just
that
in
broad
politics.
spectrum. Exactly.
Yeah.
You
All
are
right,
you are on the
Max,
mark.
I've got to go though. My time is up. Thank you. That's Max and Welcome, bringing to an end today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your time. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
Top stories: Action SA pushes for internal SARS appointment, and Colombia plane crash kills 15. A very good morning with the news. I'm Dino Motaung. Opposition party Action SA is calling for the next South African Revenue Service Commissioner to be appointed from within the organisation. The party says this would ensure continuity and protect the institution's credibility following Commissioner Edward Kiswetter's impending departure. Alan Bisley is Action SA Member of Parliament.
We've seen what card aid deployment has done and continues to do around the country. It's been decimating when we're putting the wrong people in charge, and everything rises and falls on leadership. So it's imperative that we get the right person in place. And under Commissioner Kieswetter, he's got very competent staff. He's walked alongside him for several years, and they should be given the chance to take SARS forward in the next several years.
In other news, the Johannesburg City Council will today debate a motion of no confidence in Mayor Dada Morero. The motion was brought by minority party Al Jamaa with the support of other minority parties who are calling for the vote to be conducted by a secret ballot. The parties have since written to ANC structures urging Morero to step down over ongoing service delivery failures. This comes amid factional battles within the party's regional leadership following the election of Loyiso Masuku as chairperson of the ANC Greater Johannesburg region. Wits School of Governance professor Alex van den Heever says the motion appears to be driven more by a political factionalism than service delivery concerns.
These parties voted for Dada Morero in June last year, so there was a no confidence vote and they were perfectly happy to support him. There's effectively, objectively, no real difference between service delivery then and now.